love your wife, play the wholesome family man, and make the marriage such a big part of your personality that the internet starts recognizing you for it. For more than 8 years, that was Ned Fulmer's entire brand online. And by 2022, that brand was independent with its own production company. 8 million subscribers, 2.5 billion views, a best-selling book, a national tour, a Food Network show, and roughly $6 million a year in online content revenue. The image of a devoted husband had done its job extremely well. Ned Fulmer was one of 4 co-owners of the Try Guys, but inside this massive online empire, Ned's role was always the simplest to understand. He was the wife guy, the one whose entire on-camera presence revolved around a single relationship. There were videos with his wife, sponsorships built around the family image, a cookbook co-authored with his wife that is still available on Amazon, a podcast with Ariel built around parenting and married life. But the clearest symbol of the whole thing was a small plastic figurine of Ned himself, with a button on the back that said, "My wife," when you pressed it.
My wife!
It was funny, it was marketable, and for years it worked almost too well, because Ned's image was not built on chaos, controversy, or unpredictability. It was built on trust. The audience believed the husband on camera was the same man when the cameras were off, and the Try Guys definitely benefited from that belief, which is why when the first cracks appeared, they did not look like the beginning of a massive public collapse. At first, it was just a few strange details, a missing face in recent videos, fans noticing awkward edits, a blurry clip spreading in corners of the internet before anyone official had said a word. And then almost overnight, this same image Ned had spent nearly a decade building became the thing dragging everything down. But to understand why the fallout hit as hard as it did, you have to go back to who Ned Fulmer was before the internet ever knew him as the wife guy. Born in Jacksonville, Florida, Ned Fulmer didn't start out as the kind of person you'd expect to become a YouTube personality. After high school, he went to Yale, and his degree was not in film, comedy, or media, but while studying a hard science degree, Ned was also doing something completely different. He joined a campus improv group called The Exits, where he started developing the performance side of his personality long before the internet ever knew his name. By day, he worked in a renewable energy lab, but outside of that, he was performing improv and sketch comedy at Second City and on I.O. Chicago house teams, the same venues connected to people like Tina Fey, Stephen Colbert, and others who went on to have careers in entertainment. And Ned was good enough that Time Out Chicago named him a critic's pick. Around that same period in Chicago, he met Ariel Vandeford through mutual friends at a party. Strangely enough, Ariel was also from Jacksonville, Florida. She had studied sociology and anthropology, and unlike the way she would later be introduced to millions of viewers, she already had her own creative life, with a background in interior design and art. They dated for nearly 2 years, married on June 16, 2012, and eventually settled in Los Angeles. That's where things started moving. In 2013, Ned joined BuzzFeed as an intern. On paper, that sounds like a normal entry-level job, but things moved fast, and within 1 year, he had risen to the role of development partner at BuzzFeed Motion Pictures. The title came with actual organizational authority. He created BuzzFeed's Video Fellowship program, through which he hired, trained, mentored, and managed video producers. In total, he hired and managed over 30 full-time video producers during his time there. So before the internet ever knew Ned Fulmer as the guy who loved his wife, BuzzFeed knew him as someone that can be trusted with authority. On September 12, 2014, BuzzFeed uploaded a video called "Try Guys Try On Ladies' Underwear for the First Time." The idea was extremely simple. 4 BuzzFeed employees would try something unfamiliar, react honestly, and let the awkwardness carry the video. The 4 men were Eugene Lee Yang, Keith Habersberger, Zach Kornfeld, and Ned Fulmer. Together they became the Try Guys, and almost immediately it was obvious that the format worked. The videos were cheap to produce, easy to understand, and built around a dynamic viewers could recognize within seconds. 4 different personalities, 1 uncomfortable situation, and enough chemistry to make people keep clicking. By 2018, their videos across BuzzFeed's YouTube and Facebook pages had pulled in more than 1.5 billion views. 1.5 billion views in 4 years, starting from a video about underwear. Part of the reason it worked was that each member had a role, and the roles were distinct enough that you understood them within the first 30 seconds. Eugene Lee Yang was the artistic one, who would later become publicly known for his work as an LGBTQ activist. Keith Habersberger became the food guy, with his love of fried chicken eventually turning into its own lane of content.
Greatest recommendation I could ever give to you in my life is to go eat at Tokyo Fried Chicken Co. If you're anywhere near the Los Angeles area, I promise you it's worth the drive. It's adorable. The people who work there are amazing. The food is unbelievable. I mean, look at this chicken.
Zach Kornfeld brought a more scrappy, thoughtful energy to the group. He spoke openly about his health struggles and clearly had ambitions beyond just making YouTube videos. At first, Ned fit neatly into the group as the more polished, slightly competitive married one. It was not the entire brand yet, but the pieces were already there. While the others had identities that could easily stand on their own, Ned's most memorable trait kept pointing back to one person outside the group, his wife, Ariel. At the time, that was not a problem. In fact, it made him more recognizable. The devoted husband angle gave him an easy role in the group, and audiences responded to it. But as the Try Guys got bigger, the stakes around that image got bigger too. In June 2018, the Try Guys announced they were leaving BuzzFeed because their contracts were expiring.
After 4 years of working at BuzzFeed, we had a great time, but we were on contracts. Those contracts were expiring.
Eugene left in February. Ned, Keith, and Zach followed in April. In June 2018, Second Try LLC was officially announced.
Hi, I'm Keith. I'm Ned.
I'm Zach.
I'm Eugene.
And we're
the
Try Guys.
This was their own production company, owned and run by the four members themselves. And within just 5 days of the company officially starting, the channel had already crossed 673,000 subscribers. Ned Fulmer held the title of executive producer and producer. He was on camera, but he was also part of the room where money, talent, and company decisions were handled. At its peak, the business was significantly larger than most casual viewers probably realized. Around 30 million monthly YouTube views, 4,000 Patreon subscribers, a New York Times #1 book, a national tour. Industry analytics put the online content revenue alone at around $6 million a year. Then came The Hidden Power of Effing Up, a book co-written by all four members and published by HarperCollins in June 2019. The book reached #1 in the New York Times bestseller list for self-help and advice. That same year, they also went on a national live tour. At the time, industry analytics estimated the total at approximately $6 million a year in online content revenue alone. So by the time 2022 arrived, the Try Guys had become a full-scale media company, with employees, sponsors, publishing deals, live shows, and millions of dollars moving through the brand. And Ned was one of the people helping running it, which is what makes the next part of the story so important. Because while the company kept growing, Ned's role in front of the camera was slowly becoming simpler, louder, and much harder to separate from his real life. However, there's no single moment when Ned became the wife guy. It happened piece by piece, through videos,
The lives with those who matter the most to us. My wife.
No.
Oh.
products, appearances,
My wife. 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 My wife.
and inside jokes that kept coming back so often they eventually became the main thing people associated with him. The "my wife" catchphrase started as a normal part of Ned's personality on camera. He talked about Ariel constantly, brought her up in conversations, and made his marriage one of the earliest jokes for viewers to recognize.
My wife. 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 I'm married to my wife.
Fans even started comparing it to Borat's famous "My Wife" line. The Try Guy's own second channel eventually published a compilation video of Ned saying "My wife" in 2021. Ariel herself became a regular part of the content. She appeared in videos like Ned and Ariel Write a Cookbook, Home Cooked versus $200 Ice Cream Shake, Home Cooked versus Chef's Japanese Jiggy Souffle Pancake. The format of these videos usually worked the same way. Take the marriage and subject it to some kind of experiment. Even when the video was about food, design, or parenting, the real appeal was watching a devoted married couple on camera. Every appearance from Ariel made the image feel more real, and over time she became one of the pieces holding Ned's entire brand together. And that's where Ariel's role in the story gets more complicated, because long before she became a regular part of her husband's content, she had already built something of her own. In 2015, Ariel founded Fig and Stone Designs, a vintage and handmade interior decor business that existed separately from the Try Guys. She had her own creative network, her own taste, and her own identity. But as Ned's wife guy image grew, more and more of that public identity got pulled into his. The projects kept expanding. In September 2021, Ned and Ariel launched Baby Steps, a podcast about parenting. By that point, their children, Wesley, James, and Finley, were also part of the public family image. And then came the clearest symbol of the entire thing, a small plastic figure of Ned Fulmer with a button on the back. You pressed it and it said, "My wife."
My wife!
Fans bought it voluntarily because they were invested enough in the brand to want a physical object that embodied it. The Verge later described Ned as someone who had built a fan base around the relationship itself, which is why the wife guy label stuck so easily. Coco McCoe put the risk even more clearly when she told The Hollywood Reporter that Ned being the wife guy made him profitable, but that it was not necessarily as stable as just leaning into yourself. That was the problem hiding underneath the joke. The image worked because it felt personal, but because it felt personal, it also depended on viewers believing that what they were watching was real. Even Ned seemed to understand how blurry the line had become. In Behind the Try, he admitted that he had never imagined his family life would become so closely tied to his career.
And then I became kind of known for my own relationship, and then I did more of it. I don't know. Maybe I should think about it more. I just kind of do it because it's like digital media and YouTube culture is, I don't know, kind of showing who you are as a person.
But he kept leaning into it anyway. For years, the family image kept showing up in public content. And from the outside, it looked like one of the safest brands a YouTuber could possibly have. But not everyone watching saw it that way. A piece in the Brandy's Hoot published on September 30th, 2022 made an observation that stood out, because it was written while the story was still unfolding, not years later with the benefit of hindsight. After all, for years, the whole joke was that Ned loved his wife so much he could not stop talking about her. Maybe the joke had always been harmless. Maybe it was just a bit that got bigger than anyone expected. Or maybe the louder Ned pressed the button, the more people should have wondered why he needed everyone to hear it.
My wife!
All of that, the catchphrase, the figurine, the cookbook, the parenting podcast, 8 years of architecture built one piece at a time, each piece adding to the one before it. And the woman who was about to dismantle all of it had been inside that brand for most of that time. She had her own place inside the Try Guy's universe, and had for years. Her name was Alexandria Herring, and she went by Alex. She grew up in California and later studied communication and media studies. Like a lot of people trying to break into entertainment in Los Angeles, she started wherever she could, first working retail at Gilly Hicks, and then taking freelance production assistant jobs, before eventually landing a production manager job at Second Try LLC. When the Try Guys left BuzzFeed and formed Second Try LLC in June 2018, Alex came with them. She joined the company in August 2018 as a production manager. 2 years later, she was promoted to associate professor. By this point in time, she had developed enough of a presence within the broader Try Guys ecosystem to appear on camera as a co-host of Food Babies, a spin-off series she hosted alongside senior editor YB Chang. Before the Try Guys, she worked retail at Gilly Hicks and took freelance production assistant jobs, slowly building her way into the industry. And Alex had a public relationship of her own. For years, she had been with a man named Will Thayer. According to reports, they'd been together for around 10 to 11 years and were engaged. Will had also documented parts of that life publicly through photos on Instagram, creating a digital record of a relationship that went back to around the same period when Ned was still doing improv in Chicago. In other words, she had a visible place in the Try Guys universe and a personal life that some fans had seen pieces of online. But there was another detail that most viewers had no reason to think about at the time: the structure of the company itself. Ned Fulmer was a co-owner and executive producer of Second Try LLC, while Alex Herring was an associate producer. He may not have been her direct day-to-day manager, but he was still one of the owners of the company that employed her, paid her, and had the power to decide whether she kept working there. And then, before anyone from the Try Guys explained anything, something on the channel started to look off. Sometime in September 2022, Try Guys fans started noticing that Ned was missing from several videos in a row. The Try Guys always had a standard intro sequence that opened every video and featured all 4 members together. But around this time, viewers noticed something stranger. The Try Guys had a new intro, and Ned was absent from it. And fans immediately picked up on it. Soon, people were asking what was going on. For a fan base that had spent years watching these 4 men together, Ned's sudden disappearance did not feel normal. Around the same time, Ariel also stopped appearing on You Can Sit With Us, a podcast she had regularly been a part of. Episode 114 came out without her. Then episode 115 came out without her too. And naturally, fans picked up on this too. On its own, none of this proved anything. Creators miss intros, guests skip podcast episodes. But once people started paying attention, the details kept compounding. On September 1st, a Reddit user claimed they had seen Ned and Alex at a Harry Styles concert at Madison Square Garden. Just the two of them at 9 p.m. The fan even got a selfie and claimed Alex seemed annoyed once she realized they had been recognized. Then on September 3rd, another Reddit user, uHamilton390, posted a much bigger claim. Multiple people have seen Ned around New York City this week, making out with women at the local bars. It's unfortunate for Ariel, his family, and the Try team, but this is true. The account and post were later deleted. Another Redditor commented on Hamilton390's post, claimed that he was making this up. To this, Hamilton390 messaged X privately. In those messages, Hamilton390 shared screenshots from an Instagram conversation. In that conversation, a seemingly random person, let's call them Z, contacted Hamilton390 and said they saw Ned and Alex kissing in a club at New York City. Z also included a blurry video. Hamilton390 also claimed they had spoken to Ariel for about an hour about what was happening. To prove he actually knew Ned, Hamilton390 sent X a screenshot of Ned saved in their phone contacts. Then came the biggest detail. The Reddit user Hamilton390 claimed to be Will, Alex's fiance and partner of more than 10 years. At first, X thought the messages looked fake, so he didn't post them publicly. Meanwhile, a Twitter account @NedFulmerExpose claimed someone had edited the screenshots and uncovered Z's Instagram username. And because Z and Will found each other on Instagram, people took it as evidence that Hamilton390 really could be Will. The same account also enhanced the blurry screenshots from the New York City club. This caused the fans to start comparing the people in the footage to Ned and Alex, even pointing out the height difference. Still, plenty of people held back. The footage was too blurry to be certain about anything, so it sat there, uncertain, unsettled, for a few more weeks, until another clue surfaced. On September 8th, Zach told listeners on Tripod that he'd had a rough week and was just surviving.
I've literally watched almost. When I tell you, like, I've had a rough week, and this has been.
It's a joy.
For most listeners, that could have meant anything. But for fans already tracking Ned's absence, Ariel's absence, and the Reddit rumors, it felt like one more piece in the pile. And still, the thread kept unraveling. After September 8th, Ned also stopped appearing in the Try Guy's Instagram posts. And the comments became more certain with every new absence. By then, a growing part of the community had already turned against Ned. On September 21st, the Try Guys announced that they would only release one video per week through October. That announcement pushed the tension even higher. People started wondering if the slower upload schedule existed because the team needed time to edit Ned out of upcoming videos. A few days later, viewers found what looked like evidence that Ned had been edited out of the Try Guys stand-up comedy. In one shot, fans pointed to a man in the background wearing a red shirt. Fans believed it was the same shirt Ned had worn before, which meant he might have been present at the set, and yet his face didn't appear in a single frame of the published video, confirming the doubts of the viewers. Then came the part that made the whole story feel even stranger, because as the speculation grew online, Ned and Ariel suddenly started posting Instagram stories showing family time, including biking, pizza night, and snuggles. But people were not fully convinced, believing it was all a staged act. Some pointed out that the pizza night story appeared around 2:50 p.m. in their time zone, but the caption said, "Homemade pizza night." Then Will Thayer's Instagram actively began to draw attention. His account appeared to go public, then private, then public again. Photos of Alex disappeared, and at some point he appeared to unfollow her entirely. On September 27th, Jake LaRosa, a former Second Try employee whose last day had reportedly been September 23rd, posted a TikTok about the cheating speculation. At that point, the company could no longer stay silent. And finally, it was time for the Try Guys to address the matter. On September 27th, the Try Guys announced on Instagram that Ned Fulmer is no longer working with the group. After the announcement, Ned posted his own statement. In it, he admitted that he had lost focus and had a consensual workplace relationship. Ariel also released a statement of her own, but she did not go into specific details. She thanked people for reaching out and asked for privacy for the sake of their family. With the official confirmation of what the internet had been speculating for weeks, the public reaction turned against Ned almost immediately. For years, he had built his identity around being the "my wife" guy, and a huge part of the audience had believed that image. He was the devoted husband, the family man, the safe one in the group. So when the statement came out, the gap between the image and the reality was impossible to ignore. How dare Ned have his whole personality be about being a loving husband still disrespected his family like this? This story quickly escaped fan pages and became mainstream news. But the detail that made everything bigger than ordinary internet drama was the phrase workplace relationship, because this was also about a co-owner of the company having a relationship with someone who worked there. The phrase lost focus became its own problem. How did he lose focus when he mentions Ariel and kids in almost every episode, and is constantly pushing out content surrounding his family? The "I lost focus" rubs me the wrong way. You needed to focus on not cheating on your wife? Meanwhile, much of the community rallied around Ariel. One Reddit user argued that Ariel had done everything she could to support Ned, only for him to damage the life they had built together. However, Ariel didn't go public with anger. She wasn't posting call-outs or giving statements to the media. Even after everything, she was seen appearing near him. In one video, the two were filmed walking down the street and leaving together. When asked about their relationship, Ariel said they were working on working things out.
Hi guys. Hey, are you guys working things out?
Yeah.
You are?
Working things out.
The comment section largely had nothing bad to say about Ariel, but the anger toward Ned only kept getting worse, especially after people started revisiting clips where he seemed smug about his wife guy image.
Hi Ariel, hi Ned. Hey, what's next in your career, Ned? Okay.
His smugness is what gets me riled up. Ariel is the real victim here. Not an ounce of regret from Ned. He loves it. Then on the night of October 3rd, 2022, the Try Guys uploaded a video to their YouTube channel. In the video, they explained that they had learned about Ned's workplace relationship, which had apparently been going on for some time.
Ned confirmed the reports and since confirmed that this had been going on for some time, which was obviously very shocking to us.
After finding out, the team launched an internal investigation and suspended Ned from work activities.
And thus began a 3-week process of engaging with employment lawyers, corporate lawyers, HR, PR, and more, in order to make sure we were taking all necessary steps.
They said Ned had officially been removed as an employee and manager on September 16th.
So on Friday, September 16th, the three of us signed written consent of the members of Second Try LLC approving the removal of Ned as a manager and an employee.
And viewers could see how disappointed the remaining team members looked, but many fans even praised the way the team handled it. After the October 3rd video, the Try Guys had finally said their side. They explained when they found out, how they investigated it, and why Ned had been removed from the company. For the remaining members, it was an attempt to close the door and keep the business moving. But for Ned, that door stayed shut for a very long time. After September 27th, 2022, he basically disappeared. No posts, no interviews, no responses to media requests. Ariel's request for privacy was the last public word she offered for years. Alex Herring and Will Thayer said nothing either. Everyone at the center of it went quiet at the same time, and the only thing that kept the story alive was the audience's refusal to move on. But then in July 2023, Ned's sister posted photos from a Taylor Swift concert, and in those photos, Ned and Ariel were standing in the same frame. Some people saw it as a sign that the marriage might have survived. Others felt bad for Ariel, but had almost no sympathy left for Ned. In the meantime, the Try Guys kept going. New videos, same company, same structure, just one fewer face in the intro. And for a while, it looked like that might be where the story ended. But eventually, it became clear that Ned was not planning to stay gone forever. In a September 2025 People interview, Ned finally made his first public appearance since the scandal. In it, he said that for a long time he wanted nothing to do with social media or the internet. He said it had not been good for his mental health. He didn't say he was ashamed. He didn't mention what he was doing to repair what he had broken. What he said was that social media hadn't been good for his mental health. For most people watching, that was not the explanation they'd been anticipating for the past 3 years. But more importantly, in the same interview, Ned announced a podcast called Rock Bottom. The podcast would be a series of conversations about rock bottom, the worst, most public, most embarrassing moments of people's lives and what they did afterward. And Ned had a very obvious reason to build a show around rock-bottom moments. His own scandal ranked number 6 on Time's list of the most viral moments of 2022, meaning the most humiliating moment of his life had now become part of his pitch for his return. The first episode came out on September 17th, 2025, and the first guest was Ariel Fulmer. On the podcast, Ariel confirmed that she and Ned had been separated since 2022. She also made it clear that forgiveness had not happened yet. When Ned asked her directly if she had forgiven him, Ariel answered with 2 words: absolutely not.
No, like, people ask me, like, do you forgive Ned for what he did? And I mean, the answer is no. Absolutely not. How can you forgive somebody for lying to you, for cheating on you? No.
Naturally, that became the clip everyone started sharing. During the episode, Ariel also said Ned had not asked her to come on. She said she chose to participate because she saw herself as a stakeholder in the Rock Bottom project and wanted the channel to succeed. She also explained that they had spent years in therapy, both separately and together, trying to work through what had happened.
So we went inside and we talked about it a little bit, and then we had our therapy session, and then we came out, and then there were multiple people outside, and it was probably one of the strangest situations that I personally have ever been in. I did not know what to do with my face. And so my reaction when I don't know what to do with my face is I smile.
Yeah.
Ned said the impact on Ariel was the most devastating part for him to process and take responsibility for.
It was understandably a messy and devastating situation for everyone involved. And I was the cause of it.
That may well have been genuine remorse, but it was also happening on Ned's podcast in the middle of his return to the internet, which meant the audience was watching 2 things happen at the same time: a painful conversion between 2 people whose lives had clearly been damaged, and a comeback being built around that pain. That's what made the episode so uncomfortable. Some of it seemed genuinely honest, but the honesty is being packaged inside a media launch. Northeastern University marketing professor Amy Pye had a precise way of explaining why the Rock Bottom podcast was such a calculated move, and why in a deeply uncomfortable way, it made complete sense for someone with Ned Fulmer's specific background. That observation gets to the center of what Rock Bottom is doing. Ned once again took something personal and turned it into public content. The Try Wives, the Date Night Cookbook, the Baby Steps podcast, and the Architectural Digest home tour were all built on the same basic formula. Take private life, put it on camera, and make it part of the brand. Now he was doing it again. Only this time the material was the wreckage of the brand he had destroyed. Unsurprisingly, the internet had a lot to say about the comment. Post-game interview after cheating on your spouse is insane work. I can't believe he's really interviewing her about him traumatizing her. To viewers, he was a man who had hurt multiple people and was now launching a revenue-generating show about that pain. He has the audacity to put ads on this video, and that damage was basically the entire premise. Others treated the whole situation like a warning about building your entire public image around being perfect. A lot of viewers also made it clear that they were watching for Ariel, not Ned. But the strangest part of Ned's comeback did not happen on a podcast. Perhaps in another desperate attempt to stay relevant, on October 8th, 2025 in Jacksonville, Florida, Ned Fulmer made his professional wrestling debut at AEW Collision tapings. He performed under the name Nasty Ned, and somehow the name itself made the whole thing even more ridiculous. Ned told Fightful that he wanted to play a heel character, and one rejected idea was apparently called Grandpappy. According to him, Nasty Ned ended up being the name because the pants had already been printed. And just when the wrestling moment seemed to be over, Ned gave the internet something else to talk about. In February 2026, an old TikTok started circulating again. The video showed Ned dancing closely with a woman at Jason Aldean's rooftop bar in Nashville. The clip spread quickly, and many viewers initially assumed the woman was Alex Herring. Keith Habersberger responded on social media with a clarification. According to Keith, the video is from a group outing celebrating the wrap of their television show, and the woman was Rachel, their producer and longtime friend.
So this video was taken in March or April of 2022. We were just wrapping our first episode of our Food Network TV show in Nashville. But this is a video of Ned and our producer Rachel, who's been with us since 2018, dancing as friends, hugging and celebrating and being proud of ourselves for making a TV show.
This clarification helped explain the clip, but it didn't make people any warmer toward Ned. So it was just a normal thing for him to touch his employees like that? Respectfully, you might not have known, but there's no way that his dancing was just friendly celebration dancing, because by this point Ned was no longer being judged like a normal creator making awkward public appearances. Every move he made was being viewed through the scandal he still had not fully escaped. And honestly, that's the part Ned seems least able to outrun. For years, he trained the audience to care about his private life. His marriage was the main appeal for the viewers. So when that image collapsed, people refused to move on. Not because they still believed in the brand, but because they had already been invited too far inside it. And that's what makes his comeback so strange. Ned's not returning as the same wife guy everyone used to know. That version of him does not really exist anymore. But he's still doing something familiar, taking the most personal parts of his life, putting them in front of an audience, and hoping people will keep clicking. Only this time, it's not the perfect marriage being sold back to viewers. It's everything that was left after it fell apart, and the internet couldn't care less.
Here's a GoFundMe link. Any donations help. I'm sure they do, sweetheart. I'm sure they do. You know what else would help you? Getting another job.
I know another question on here is, do I accept his apology? So I'm just going to answer it right together. Hell no. I don't accept his apology, especially because he was very publicly with what he said, and then you thought it was okay to message me privately. No. So he did message me. Here's a screenshot.
Like, sucking dick and cock. Like, I'm just like, oh my God. Time and place. Oh my God, you tried to trick a straight man into thinking he's gay yet again, and somehow you're the victim.
Most influencers and celebrities usually get one chance to mess up their reputation before the internet decides they're done forever. Maybe two if they're lucky. We've seen it happen to people like Colleen Ballinger and Shane Dawson, and plenty of others who got swallowed whole by the cancellation machine. But then there are those rare internet creatures who somehow keep surviving no matter how many scandals get stacked against them. And James Charles might just be the final boss of that category. Over the past decade, this man has been involved in so much drama that you could genuinely turn it into a multi-season Netflix series. We're talking messaging minors, getting accused of manipulating straight men, feuding with other influencers, racist remarks against Africans, and somehow finding himself at the center of controversy over and over and over again. And the craziest part, people have lost everything over accusations that were far less serious. But James Charles doesn't seem to operate under normal influencer physics, because somehow every time the internet thinks it has finally buried him, he respawns with a new apology video, a new makeup launch, and a brand new controversy ready to go. At this point, we're convinced his career isn't being run by a management team, it's being protected by an ancient curse. So grab a snack and maybe do a quick stretch beforehand, because we're about to dive headfirst into years of chaos, controversy, cancellations, comebacks, and some of the most baffling influencer decisions known to mankind. So let's begin. If you have no idea who this guy is, or you've seen his name floating around but never really understood the full extent of his online footprint, here's a quick James Charles rundown. James Charles is an American influencer and social media personality. Born in New York on May 23, 1999, which makes him 27 years old today. And in the beauty and makeup space, he's not just popular, he's one of the most recognizable faces of the entire genre. Over the years, James has built his career around massive brand deals and collaborations, most notably with CoverGirl and Morph, along with a long list of other beauty projects that basically turned him into a walking billboard for influencer makeup culture. He's also crossed over into mainstream celebrity territory, working with names like Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, and Maddie Ziegler. On social media, his reach is honestly kind of ridiculous. He has over 40 million followers on TikTok, around 19 million on Instagram, and about 23.8 million subscribers on YouTube. In short, this isn't just influence, it's mass attention on a global scale. And with that kind of reach comes serious money. As of 2025, his net worth is reportedly sitting at over $25 million. So yeah, whether you love him, hate him, or you know him only from internet drama compilations, James Charles is undeniably one of the most influential and controversial figures in modern beauty and internet culture. But James Charles, of course, was not always this big. Back in 2012, James used to look something like this. His earliest digital footprint can be traced back to a YouTube channel called Jay's Coding, which currently has over 125,000 subscribers, which is honestly impressive, especially considering this channel contains videos of James singing absolutely horrendously.
Outrun my gun, all the other kids with the pumped up hicks, you better run, better run.
It also features videos that don't show James at all, where he communicates entirely through text because he didn't even have a microphone at the time. The funniest part is that in one of these videos, James specifically asks viewers not to leave negative comments because he was young and because, according to him, mean comments are naughty. Now, since making questionable song covers wasn't exactly launching him into internet stardom, James decided to create another YouTube channel around 2015, which eventually became the main channel we know today. Before fully diving into YouTube, he had already built a decent following on Instagram, where people were becoming increasingly interested in his makeup looks and glam content. While all of that was helping him grow, the first thing that truly put James on the map was this photo. In September 2016, James posted his senior year photos on Twitter, explaining that he wasn't happy with the originals. So naturally, instead of accepting defeat like the rest of us, he decided to retake them and brought a ring light with him to make his highlighter pop. For whatever reason, the internet absolutely lost its mind over this picture. The photos spread everywhere. People couldn't stop talking about it. It became such a viral moment that it eventually reached Zendaya, who ended up retweeting it. And that single photo changed the trajectory of James' career. One of the biggest beauty brands in the world at the time, CoverGirl, took notice. Just a month later, in October 2016, James became their first ever male brand ambassador at only 17 years old. While many people celebrated the move as groundbreaking, others were less enthusiastic about a man becoming the face of a brand literally called CoverGirl. But regardless of the criticism, the publicity only made James bigger. By the end of 2016, he was rapidly growing his audience, collaborating with other influencers, and becoming a recognizable figure within the beauty community. However, there was one small problem. From the very beginning, James seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to accidentally turn himself into a meme. He would say something bizarre, do something embarrassing, or simply exist in a way that attracted internet attention, and somehow it would always go viral. The first example of this came during one of his earliest fan meetups. Now, James has always been extremely confident in his singing abilities. Whether that confidence was justified is a completely different conversation. At this meetup, he basically sat down on the pavement and began singing Stone Cold in a voice that could genuinely make anyone go cold. The clip quickly spread online and people couldn't stop making fun of it. Surprisingly, though, this wasn't even the most embarrassing thing he did that year. At some point in 2016, James filmed a promotional video for CoverGirl alongside Zendaya. Not many people even know this crossover exists, because James was so bad in the video that CoverGirl eventually deleted it. The premise was simple. Zendaya and James had to create makeup looks using CoverGirl products in under 5 minutes. And let us tell you, Zendaya absolutely demolished him. Not only did James spend most of the challenge copying what Zendaya was doing, but his final look somehow still turned out significantly worse. It was honestly difficult to watch.
Proud of us. We did that.
I'm proud of us.
Good job.
But you too.
Good job.
Congratulations.
No, hug it out. We did that.
Okay.
It was a challenge. We succeeded in my eyes.
Truly was.
And there you go. There you have it.
Easy breezy, beautiful CoverGirl. I'm gonna need you to relax.
While all of this was undeniably hilarious, what happened next would mark the beginning of James's seemingly never-ending relationship with controversy. This brings us to February 2017. That month, James posted a tweet that essentially associated the Ebola virus with African people. He wrote, "I can't believe we're going to Africa today. OMG. What if we get Ebola?" James, we're fine. We could have gotten it at Chipotle last year. The tweet was unbelievably tone-deaf and came across as blatantly racist. People noticed almost immediately, and the backlash was intense. The criticism became so widespread that CoverGirl wasted no time distancing itself from the situation. They released a statement essentially saying that James' comments did not reflect the company's values, and that they strongly disagreed with the ideas being expressed. And perhaps the funniest part of this entire disaster was that James wasn't even traveling to Africa. He was traveling to South Africa. And the last reported Ebola case in South Africa had occurred in 1996, before James was even born. After getting dragged across the internet, James deleted the tweet and posted a series of apologies on Twitter. Eventually, people moved on. As always, the internet found something else to be angry about. While many people forgot about the Ebola controversy, they definitely didn't forget about James, because only a month later, he went viral again. And if you were online during 2017, there's a good chance you already know exactly where this is going. The Flashback Mary meme. The meme originated after James attended an event wearing what appeared to be an excessive amount of powder and foundation. When photographers started taking pictures with flash, his face reflected the light so aggressively that it created an almost ghostly white cast. The internet immediately got to work. People edited the photos, exaggerated the effect, compared them to random fictional characters, and turned the image into a full-blown meme. One of the most popular comparisons was to an ant character, although honestly there were hundreds of variations floating around Twitter at the time. Some people were comparing him to Casper from Twilight, and some people straight up suggested that he looked like a beluga whale. The memes spread everywhere. They became so popular that several tabloids even reported on the fact that James was getting relentlessly roasted online. To his credit, James eventually embraced the joke. He hopped on the trend himself and later reacted to many of the memes people had made about him. Now, at the end of all this trolling, you'd think the drama would have stopped, at least for a while. But nah. James was seriously not done creating havoc on Twitter. It was almost like he had so much nonsense stuffed inside his head, and he just wanted to vomit all of it onto the internet. So just a few months after going viral as Flashback Mary, James once again became the center of attention online in September 2017 for his Twitter rampage about the movie It. And the whole thing's just so freaking bizarre on James' part. First, on September 7th, he tweeted that he was going to watch It and that he was super excited for it. But while he was still sitting in the theater, he tweeted, "Okay, 5 minutes in and It is already awful. Stay tuned for updates." The immediate reaction was confusion. How exactly do you judge a 2-hour movie after watching only 5 minutes of it? That alone had people scratching their heads. But somehow the situation only kept getting more bizarre. The entire time James was in the movie theater, he kept tweeting. He even admitted that he was texting his friends throughout the movie. This genuinely made people upset because how can you judge a movie when you're not even paying attention to it? When people pointed that out to him, James tweeted again, implying that literally everyone uses their phone in movie theaters, which is definitely not true. Most people pay for a movie because they actually want to watch what they paid for instead of staring at their phone screen for 2 hours. But James Charles, instead of accepting that he was being a little too extra for attention, started lashing out at fans and telling them to find something better to do instead of attacking him for not liking a movie. When the situation exploded on Twitter, surprisingly, the main star of the movie, Finn Wolfhard, who was just 13 years old at the time, had to step in and ask James why he was even on his phone in a movie theater. Which is honestly a fair question. It's basically rule number 1. Well, James remained adamant that he didn't like the movie and claimed that he was expecting something much scarier. The very next day, on September 9th, his stance completely changed. He tweeted again, saying that It was actually a fantastically made movie. He then posted an apology video on Twitter while sitting in an Uber, apologizing to the cast and explaining that he only called the movie awful because it didn't have enough horror elements for his liking.
So therefore, during the movie and after, I tweeted saying it was awful, which was the social media over-exaggerator coming out in me, but it was rude and obnoxious, and I'm apologizing for it because that was wrong. The movie, if I'm being honest, was not awful at all. It was a fantastically made movie. The acting was great. The cinematography was absolutely beautiful. The plot development was great. The character development was absolutely great. I personally was disappointed in the movie because I had not seen the original or read the novel, and based on the trailers and the previews, I was expecting it to be a very, very scary movie.
Well, the most absurd part of this entire debacle actually came in October 2017, when James thought it would be a fantastic idea to do a Pennywise makeup tutorial after spending the previous month trashing the movie on Twitter. Only James can be this ironic. He definitely knew this would generate discussion, and that's exactly what happened. The general public wasn't happy, but neither was the cast of It, who understandably didn't appreciate James calling their movie awful. Wyatt Olaf, another cast member from It, replied to James saying, "When you decide to exploit a movie that you hate for money and attention, because why not?" Which is honestly a brutal response. This, of course, resulted in even more self-pitying tweets from James. In one of them, he wrote, "I really have half the internet angry over a makeup tutorial. This is too funny." He was certainly acting like he had no idea why people were upset, even though he had literally spent the previous month creating chaos around the exact same movie. At that point, acting surprised about the backlash was probably the most ridiculous part of the entire situation. But let's move on, because we're entering another exciting year in James' life. You might have noticed that 2017 was full of controversies for him. Well, 2018 also had its fair share of drama, but it was still remarkably better for him in terms of career growth, because 2018 was actually the birth of the Sister Squad.
Hi sisters! James Charles here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see, I am joined with the Sister Squad. We're back, lady.
If you were on YouTube around this time, you've definitely heard of the Sister Squad. It was a group made up of James, content creator Emma Chamberlain, and twin brothers Ethan and Grayson Dolan. James was actually the creator of this group. He became friends with the Dolan twins after deliberately leaving a series of thirsty comments on their Instagram profiles that both the twins and the rest of the internet immediately took notice of. Not only that, but long before leaving those comments, he was actively tweeting suggestive things about the Dolan twins. So, long story short, he eventually connected with them, ended up doing their Halloween makeup, and became their friend. Later on, he introduced Emma Chamberlain to the Dolan brothers, and the four eventually started making videos together. Now, saying that their videos did well would be a huge understatement, because they weren't just making content, they were absolutely printing views. Every Sister Squad they uploaded around that time ended up receiving millions upon millions of views. We're talking a minimum of 20 to 30 million views per video, so it's pretty apparent that people loved them. But even then, there were allegations and controversy surrounding James and his behavior. Soon, rumors started circulating about James and Grayson Dolan. Since James often had a habit of flirting with the Dolan twins, especially Grayson, many people began wondering whether anything else was going on between them. But most people at the time also couldn't help but notice a very awkward energy between James and Grayson. There's literally a compilation video on YouTube where Grayson spends 2 straight minutes rejecting James. It's honestly hard to watch and will instantly give you secondhand embarrassment. In these clips, James is shown making advances toward Grayson while Grayson is clearly leaning away.
I will admit that.
Same. I really was. Sorry, James. I didn't mean to.
Grayson! Hey sister! Hey sister, how are you? Miss you the most.
We're actually going to mukbang IHOP right now. You want to come?
Oh, I am pretty hungry, but can you just like bang me instead?
You know how much I love survival and camping and just like nature and then being with the wild. Okay, it's good enough. Thank you.
What's bizarre about the situation is that James later claimed that the flirting was pre-planned and that Grayson didn't have an issue with it. However, many people felt that Grayson looked visibly uncomfortable throughout these interactions. We can't really say much more about it, except Grayson never publicly came out to defend James, nor did he confirm any of the speculation. Around the same time, another incident happened involving James being a complete weirdo in someone else's comments section. The person of interest this time was none other than Shawn Mendes. So sometime in 2018, Shawn decided to go live and show his audience his incredible juggling skills. And there was James in the chat commenting, "Can you juggle me like that?" People immediately took notice of the comment, and one person even began claiming that Shawn had ended his live because James was making him uncomfortable. So in response to those allegations, James took to Twitter once again to apologize. At this point, we have honestly lost count of how many apologies we've already had. Well, the good thing is that this particular drama didn't go very far, because shortly afterward, James shared screenshots of Shawn Mendes DMing him and saying that he never claimed James made him uncomfortable and that he actually liked having James in his lives. Now, while this drama didn't really gain much traction, some other drama definitely happened behind the scenes, because the Sister Squad ended up not surviving beyond 2018. The group had an incredible run for about a year, but after December 2018, they mysteriously stopped posting videos together. At the time, most people assumed the end of the Sister Squad might have had something to do with Emma Chamberlain and Ethan Dolan, as there had long been rumors about them dating. Even though they denied those rumors repeatedly, many people were convinced that something was going on between them. So when the Sister Squad ended and Emma was the first one to distance herself from the group, many people assumed it might have been because Emma and Ethan had broken up. The fact that in February 2019, Emma mass unfollowed a number of people on Instagram, including James and the Dolan twins, only strengthened people's suspicions that they were no longer friends. While the Sister Squad did not survive beyond 2018, James actually had a much bigger achievement waiting for him. In November 2018, he launched his first ever makeup product, a 39-shade artistry palette in collaboration with Morphe. It was an immediate success. It sold out like crazy in stores and put James in an even bigger spotlight. Just as we mentioned earlier, no matter how many controversies he had been a part of, nothing ever seemed to truly affect him. He always found a way to stay relevant and successful, even amidst all the backlash. The launch of this palette was yet another example of that. Around this time, James' following grew like crazy. He was being treated like royalty within the makeup community. And just to give you an idea of how massive he actually was during that period, he made a 30-second appearance at Birmingham's Bullring Shopping Center, and over 8,000 people showed up just to see him. BBC, Daily Mail, and nearly every major media outlet ended up reporting on it. So James was getting worldwide attention, and his fan following was growing at an insane rate. He decided it would be extremely cool to plan a nationwide tour. So in March 2019, James announced his first ever nationwide live tour called the Sisters Tour. It was planned as a 24-city US tour featuring makeup tutorials, games, Q&As, giveaways, and meet and greets. Many fans who admired him at the time loved the idea of seeing James in their respective cities. However, there was one small problem. Pricing for this tour was so ridiculously high that it immediately landed James yet another mini scandal. James had apparently created multiple ticket packages, and the most expensive Sisters VIP ticket cost over $500. Yeah, we're not joking. This package was supposed to include $250 worth of goodies, a pre-show private hangout and Q&A with James, a post-show meet and greet, merchandise, and an autographed tour poster. A lot of people thought this was absolutely ridiculous. Many took to Twitter to complain about the pricing, which eventually led James to post a series of tweets explaining the situation. He said that he was already speaking with his team and trying as hard as possible to lower the prices. But he also pointed out that there were huge companies and entire teams involved in making the tour happen, so they had to offer different packages in order to pay staff and ensure that everyone involved could make a profit. He also explained that because the tour was supposedly in such high demand, he physically couldn't meet every fan attending the venues. Therefore, different ticket tiers were necessary. While trolls and commentary channels continued mocking him for charging such outrageous prices, especially considering he was just a YouTuber, the tickets actually ended up selling out completely, including the VIP packages.
There are so many people willing to pay $500 for VIP tickets to meet with James Charles that this morning, when I tried to buy two $500 VIP tickets for my girlfriend and her friend, in seconds, they were gone.
So the joke was kind of on everybody else. Interestingly, around this same time, a video started circulating online of James singing and dancing horrendously at an event, and many people claimed that it was footage from the Sisters Tour. While this video was hilarious and gave people a glimpse into just how terrible of a singer James really was, it wasn't actually from the tour, because the tour never happened. In May 2019, James announced that he was canceling his highly anticipated Sisters Tour.
And after the last week of meetings and phone calls and trying to figure it out and talking to myself and my tour company and my friends and family, we've officially come to the very, very tough decision that I am canceling the Sisters Tour.
We know you're probably wondering why he would cancel such a major event. The tickets were sold out, the venues were ready, everything seemed to be going according to plan. Well, the reason was one of the biggest and most chaotic controversies of James' entire career, a controversy so massive that it turned James into the first YouTuber in history to lose over 1 million subscribers in a single day. This historic internet shit show is still remembered today as Drama 2.0, better known as the Bi Sister Scandal. So this incredible internet drama that centered around James, but eventually ended up involving multiple internet personalities and spiraling into a complete mess, began in April 2019 at Coachella. That year, James decided to attend Coachella, dressed in his characteristically revealing outfits. But from the very first weekend, Coachella became messy for him. He was supposedly attending the event with a guy named Gage Gomez. The two were seen together multiple times, which naturally led people to wonder whether James and Gage were dating.
In several photos with James, they had some questions, like, is James in a new relationship?
However, things became substantially more controversial when James took to Twitter and responded to people asking about his relationship status by saying that he was still single and had actually been played by a disgusting con artist. This led Gage to respond to James' allegations on Instagram, saying that he would soon tell his side of the story, leaving no details out, and address the claims that he was a con artist. But before we get into that mess, it's important to note that there were some even more significant events unfolding in James' life at the exact same time, and that brings us to Coachella 2019, Weekend 2. We later learned through James' own videos that because he didn't have an artist pass for the second weekend, he was constantly getting mobbed by people. The experience was apparently so unpleasant that he ended up messaging his friend Nikita Dragon and asking if she could connect him with someone who could help him get an artist pass. And she did. Nikita connected James with the Sugar Bear Hair team. They apparently agreed to provide him with an artist pass and even a bodyguard. In exchange, all James had to do was post an Instagram story promoting their vitamins. And James agreed. After Coachella ended, on April 22, 2019, James posted this story promoting Sugar Bear Hair's sleep vitamins. The Sugar Bear Hair team was thrilled that James had fulfilled his end of the bargain. However, a very important person in James' life was not happy about this story. Not happy at all. Now would probably be a good time to introduce Taddy Westbrook, another main character in Dramageddon 2.0. Taddy was a highly respected beauty influencer who had been in the industry since 2010. She had spent years consistently posting beauty content and had built a reputation as one of the most trusted figures in the community. She actually met James during the early stages of his career when he was still trying to establish himself on YouTube. Since James was young and Taddy was over 38 years old, she gradually became somewhat of a mother figure to him. She and her husband had supported James throughout his career, connected him with important people, and helped him navigate the industry. They were so close that James even did Taddy's wedding makeup.
James is here to do my bridal makeup, which is what I am wearing right now. I just wanted to congratulate you on almost 1 million on Instagram. I want to say huge congratulations to James Charles. If you have not checked his channel out on YouTube and you want to be inspired, he's a freaking teenager and he's like a genius with makeup. James Charles is the face of their holiday collection, and I saw him do a really cool look and it just made me want to try this palette. We are going to be taking a first look at the new Morphe palette. Hello.
So beautiful. I'm so scared.
Oh my gosh! Thank you. Like it?
It looks so gorgeous. Do you like it?
I love it. Sorry, James, I'm on to another Morphe palette, but you guys can still use code James for 10% off this one. I'm the friend that's encouraging you guys to use code James for 10% off of saving. You can use anybody's code. Use, James's code. I'm wearing my sister's apparel.
So now you understand the dynamic here. One very important detail to note is that Taddy was also the founder of a supplement and vitamin company called Halo Beauty. Meanwhile, the company James had just promoted, Sugar Bear Hair, was a direct competitor of hers. You can probably see where this is going. When James posted that Instagram story in April 2019, Taddy was understandably not thrilled. She began posting emotional stories to her own Instagram account, visibly upset, crying, and talking about feeling used, betrayed, and taken advantage of. Now, a lot of people quickly realized that she was indirectly talking about James, but instead of saying his name outright, Taddy just kept posting vague statements and throwing shade without actually addressing him directly. This also rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially when they considered the age difference between the two. James was only 19 years old at the time. Many people found it bizarre that a 38-year-old woman was posting tearful Instagram stories and indirectly shading a teenager instead of simply calling him and having a private conversation. Amidst all of this, when James realized that Taddy was upset with him, he posted a public apology on Instagram. In the apology, he admitted that he only supported Halo Beauty and only took Halo vitamins. He explained that the reason he promoted Sugar Bear Hair was because they'd helped him avoid getting mobbed at Coachella. Now this was already a terrible look for James, because what this essentially revealed was that for personal gain, he had agreed to promote a supplement brand that he had never actually used. And we're not talking about a random makeup product here, we're talking about health supplements. At this point in the timeline, every small and large drama channel on YouTube was covering the situation. Rumors were flying everywhere, speculation was growing by the day, and nobody really knew what was happening behind the scenes. So a few weeks after James posted his apology, beauty influencer Gabriel Zamora, who also happened to be James' close friend, uploaded a video to his YouTube channel titled Makeup and Opinions. In the video, he explicitly discussed the situation and called Taddy out. His argument was pretty simple. If Taddy had chosen to start the drama publicly by posting Instagram stories, then she should also be willing to come online, address the situation directly, and explain what was actually going on.
But because it started publicly, it had to end and be addressed publicly. Does that make sense? So if you're gonna go on the internet and cry and heavily imply that there's a horrible human being and everybody can get what it is, girls, sit on the internet and talk about it then. Well, it's about loyalty.
So this statement from Gabriel Zamora triggered a very explosive and honestly kind of historic response from Taddy Westbrook. On May 10th, 2019, she uploaded a 43-minute video to her YouTube channel titled Bye Sister. If you were not following this drama back then, you genuinely cannot comprehend how massive this video was. It ended up receiving over 30 million views. And just to give you an idea of how big it really was, people still remember to this day where they were when this video dropped. That's not even an exaggeration. This was basically the internet equivalent of a major historical event. So in this 43-minute video, seemingly triggered by Gabriel Zamora's statement, "Girls sit on the internet and talk about it then," Taddy decided to lay everything out in the open. First things first, she accused James of deliberately sabotaging her brand. She said that when James claimed he got mobbed at Coachella and had to be saved by Sugar Bear Hair, he was essentially spewing nonsense. According to Taddy, the whole thing had been planned in advance. She pointed out that James had 9 days after Coachella to tell her about the Sugar Bear Hair deal before posting the story, yet he only reached out once the story was already live, which made absolutely no sense to her. While Taddy clearly believed James was lying about the Sugar Bear Hair situation, she argued that even if he really was getting mobbed, he should have maintained some level of loyalty and simply walked away instead of striking a deal with one of her direct competitors.
You sold out me, but you threw away our friendship, but you lied to me, made up a story, you knew this would be embarrassing for me. No, our relationship is not transactional. I have never asked you for anything in return. You should have walked away. You should have held on to your integrity. You're a phony. I know that now. I know that you're easily bought, that a good time is more important to you than your integrity.
Taddy then spent nearly 15 minutes explaining everything she had done for James throughout his career. She had promoted his products, helped him secure partnerships, and her husband, who acted as a manager and agent, had helped James negotiate better deals. Most importantly, she said she had been there for him emotionally since the very beginning of his career. So from her perspective, James promoting a competitor's product wasn't just a business betrayal, it felt personal. Now, while everyone already knew that Taddy was upset about the vitamins situation, there were several revelations in the video that absolutely nobody saw coming. She claimed that James had, on multiple occasions, tried to manipulate straight men into believing they were gay. According to Taddy, at her birthday dinner, James made repeated sexual remarks about a waiter who was straight and continued describing in graphic detail what he wanted to do to him. And apparently he was doing all of this in front of his parents and Taddy's family members.
Saying to his dad that every man is a little bit gay and that there's no such thing as a straight man. And, his dad's like, "You're wrong, James, you're wrong." If someone who is very masculine and has been with women decides that they're bisexual, that they want to explore, that's fine, so be it. But again, it's just it's not yours to take. So talking about that at the dinner table with his parents was kind of weird. Him talking explicitly about and things that he would like to do. And I was just like,
This is also where Taddy delivered a now infamous line that immediately became one of the most quoted moments from the entire scandal.
Like, sucking and cock. Like, I'm just like, oh my God.
Later that same night, James uploaded a response video to his channel called Taddy. In it, he apologized to her and her husband, James Westbrook, but noticeably avoided addressing the allegations regarding his behavior towards straight men. The most interesting part of the video, however, had nothing to do with what he was saying. It was how he looked. Throughout the video, James was breathing heavily, constantly pausing between sentences and genuinely looking like he hadn't slept in days. He looked less like a beauty influencer and more like a haunted Victorian child who had just received terrible news from the family physician. In fact, someone later uploaded a video to YouTube showing that out of the video's total 8-minute runtime, James spent nearly 2 full minutes just breathing heavily. Now, both the Bye Sister video and James' response would go down in internet history because of how explosive they became. People who were already frustrated with James due to his previous controversies and sometimes unlikable attitude listened to Taddy's accusations and collectively decided that they were done with him almost overnight. People started unfollowing James in massive numbers. Commentary channels began live streaming subscriber counts and comparing James' numbers to Taddy's in real time. While James' subscriber count was falling off a cliff, Taddy's was skyrocketing. It was absolute madness. The entire internet seemed to be watching one giant live cancellation unfold in real time. And by the end of all of it, James had become the first YouTuber in history to lose over 1 million subscribers in a single day.
Calling for a boycott of Charles using the hashtag #JamesCharlesIsCanceled. Celebrity friends like Kylie Jenner, Shawn Mendes, and Demi Lovato unfollowing the star, and thousands of his young followers posting videos online throwing out their makeup, setting it on fire. Websites even recording the loss of hundreds of thousands of followers in real time. Even this apology video from Charles didn't help quiet the fury.
As an aftermath of Taddy's video, and with James now under intense scrutiny, more and more internet figures started coming forward with accusations of their own. First, we had Gage, whose situation had already gone public before the Taddy video even dropped. While this drama technically unfolded just before the Bye Sister video came out, Gage's allegations ended up adding more weight to the wave of accusations that followed. So as we already told you, James attended Coachella Weekend 1 with a guy named Gage. Things didn't work out between them, and James ended up tweeting calling Gage a con artist. In response to this, Gage uploaded a video alleging that James had manipulated him into thinking he was gay and kept pushing him towards starting a relationship during Coachella. Gage claimed he was straight and had only gone to Coachella with James to figure out his sexuality.
James then saw this as an opportunity to manipulate me as a person who may or may not have been trying to figure things out about their sexuality after the fact of telling him that I was straight multiple times. He then started to begin putting a little bit of pressure on me, of getting to know me without disregarding the fact that I told him I was straight. Because as you all know, this person 99.9, maybe even 100% of the times, goes after heterosexual men. So I got there, we were all hanging out, we were having a good time.
Now things escalated even further when text messages between James and Gage were leaked, in which James explicitly claimed they had kissed, held hands, and made out during Coachella. While Gage, in those messages, did not directly confirm this, he also didn't exactly deny it either. In the same conversation, James was seen claiming that Gage had only gone to Coachella for free tickets and for the perks of being photographed with someone as influential as him. According to James, Gage had essentially played him by pretending there were feelings involved. James also alleged that Gage had gained over 3,000 followers after his tweet went live, and was now trying to gain even more clout by posting videos about the situation. He further claimed that if Gage had told him from the beginning that he was straight, he would never have invited him to Coachella in the first place. But according to James, Gage came in with the intention of figuring things out and later dumped him by saying he was straight. While there did seem to be a certain level of weight in James' side of the story, the public at the time was still largely on Gage's side. This mistrust was partly because James had already been recorded flirting with straight men in the past, leaving suggestive messages on guys' Instagram profiles, like in the case of the Dolan twins. It was also fueled by another allegation that James had catfished an entire soccer team in high school by pretending to be a girl in order to get explicit photos. Now fast forward to post-Taddy video, when more and more people began jumping into the situation with accusations of their own. Singer Zara Larsson, for example, took to Twitter alleging that James had repeatedly tried to hit up her straight boyfriend through Instagram DMs. Someone on Twitter also claimed they went to high school with James Charles and alleged that he had someone. Around the same time, people also resurfaced what appeared to be his Tinder account, where he was listed as female, leading many to believe he had done so to match with straight men. Now, after Zara Larsson's tweet, Jeffree Star also jumped into the drama. And if you don't know who Jeffree Star is, explaining his internet history could easily take up an entire documentary on its own. For now, just know he's yet another highly controversial figure in the beauty community, with a long list of allegations, feuds, and scandals attached to his name. Jeffree Star, after apparently sensing that this drama was picking up serious momentum, turned to Twitter on May 12th to reply to Ian Jeffrey, James's younger brother. Ian had posted, "Why is everyone acting so tough on the internet?" To which Jeffrey replied, "Why is your brother a predator? Why did you really move back to NYC?" Exactly. Shut the F up. For context, Ian was only 17 at the time, which made Jeffrey's response not just unnecessary, but also significantly more unhinged than it needed to be. And he didn't stop there. In a separate tweet, he also called James a danger to society. The following day, on May 13th, Nikita Dragon also came online to defend her friend James. She posted chat screenshots between herself and James, as well as between herself and the Sugar Bear Hair team, clarifying that she was indeed the one who connected James with them so he could get artist passes, basically implying that James had not lied about that situation, as Taddy had claimed in her video. However, people were still skeptical and believed the screenshots could have been edited. Nikita later responded again, saying that the only thing she ever edited was her face using Facetune. Now, the biggest twist in this entire situation came from Sam, the waiter Taddy had accused James of manipulating and harassing. Sam went online and shared screenshots between him and James, along with his side of the story. He claimed that during Taddy's birthday dinner, James kept looking at him, complimenting him, and even asked for his number through another waiter. Since he was at work and did not reciprocate, James eventually left with everyone else. After the event, James said his sister encouraged him to reach out to James. He did, and according to him, James later invited him to his hotel room. Sam explained that at the time, he was not openly gay and identified as bi-curious. He said he had never kissed or explored anything with a man before, so he went to the hotel room, and the two of them ended up making out for almost an hour. Afterwards, Sam said he did not enjoy the makeout session and even described James as the worst kisser he had ever experienced.
He actually invited me out to his hotel. At that time, I was bi-curious. I had never done anything with a guy before, and I was curious. Later that night, he invited me out to his hotel room. When I got there, in the video, he said I was brought up by 4 security guards, but in reality, I was brought up by 1 concierge. But besides that, I get to the hotel room, we say hi, it's all fine. We end up watching a movie, and after that movie, he asked to kiss me. And I was very nervous, because I had never done anything with a guy, and I was bi-curious, so I said yes. And we ended up making out for around an hour, and if I'm being honest, he's the worst kisser I've ever kissed. Way too much tongue.
A few weeks later, James allegedly invited Sam to fly out to LA for his birthday, which Sam refused. He then cut things off with James, clearly telling him he was not looking for anything with him and was straight, to which James responded by insisting that he was not fully straight, no matter how many times he tried to tell himself otherwise, which Sam found oddly manipulative. Sam also claimed that James tried to offer to fly him to LA again, despite him clearly stating he was straight. He further alleged that James was talking to both him and Gage at the same time, something Sam eventually confronted him about.
I'm just gonna jump straight into it. So I just kind of watched the Gage thing.
Yeah.
And I kind of, in all honesty, I think you were talking to him at the same time you were talking to me.
Yeah, we were. It's like, why do you care?
It's just...
In an interesting turn of events, after posting a very weak and ineffective apology video in which he spent half the runtime hyperventilating, James decided on May 18th to come forward with receipts, screenshots, and evidence to address the allegations that had been circulating about him. This video, titled "No More Lies," ended up going even more viral than Bye Sister and received over 58 million views. James in this video discredited a lot of the claims Taddy had made. For instance, her allegation that James never informed her in advance about the Sugar Bear hair advertisement turned out to be false. James showed screenshots where he was explicitly notifying Taddy about the situation before he posted the ad. In her video, Taddy had also claimed that James never promoted Halo Beauty because he believed it was inappropriate to sell health supplements to his primarily teenage audience. Well, James showed numerous examples of himself promoting Halo Beauty products, both in videos and on Instagram stories.
The reason that James always said that he couldn't promote Halo on his channel and really do heavy endorsement was because he has a teenage audience and it would just be inappropriate.
Now, this time was just confusing to me, mostly because this conversation never actually happened. If you guys know my channel, you would know that I don't really do dedicated product reviews ever, which is what Tati is known for. But even though that is the case, I've still multiple times talked about her products on all my social media networks. I have to word okay, I forgot to say too. Hello. I'm going to a really important event later on tonight. My best friend.
We are going to a very important event.
Yes, this is true. And this is a very important launch to me because it is my best friend Tati. She's launching something new on Halo Beauty. Super proud of her. By the time this video is out, it'll already be up. So go check it out. Promo for Tati. Love you the most.
Who doesn't need a little beauty boost every now and then? Two of the following statements are real claims made by the original Halo Beauty Booster supplement.
Oh!
Which are the real ones?
Can I just say I love you guys for putting a Halo question in there, right?
We originally
I love you for that.
I just received my package from Halo Beauty. This is Tati's brand new brand. I did not tell Tati that I was buying these, but I did pay for these myself because I just wanted to support her, and I'm so happy. I know she's getting a lot of backlash on this, which is making me so mad because I know she's worked so hard on these for the past several years now. Congratulations, Tati. I love you, literally.
We'd also like to add here that Taddy expressed serious concern over James promoting Sugar Bear Hair's sleep vitamins because, in her opinion, selling melatonin products to teenagers was irresponsible.
Do better research. Melatonin over time, not great for you. Look into the formula before you promote it, which I also thought was really strange because the reason that James always said that he couldn't promote Halo on his channel and really do heavy endorsement was because he has a teenage audience and it would just be inappropriate.
Well, after seeing James promote Halo Beauty multiple times on his platform, it's a little confusing why he had such a huge issue with him promoting melatonin gummies, yet had absolutely no problem with him promoting her own supplement brand to the exact same audience. That's hypocrisy at its finest. It also highlights how Taddy tried to present herself as a concerned beauty influencer who is simply looking out for teenagers, when in reality, she came across more like an insecure and jealous woman desperately searching for reasons to discredit James. Further into the video, James also addressed the Sam situation. He shared screenshots showing Sam telling him before James ever invited him to the hotel room that he was bisexual. Not curious, not figuring things out, bisexual. Taddy had framed this situation as though James was being inappropriate towards Sam and made it sound as if he was harassing him in the restaurant. Well, according to the screenshots James shared, Sam was actually the one who initially reached out to him. He even admitted that if he had been allowed to give James his number while working at the restaurant, he would have done so. The only reason he didn't was that his supervisor wouldn't allow it. James also showed screenshots from after they had met and apparently made out, where Sam was repeatedly appreciative that James had not pressured him into doing anything, making it pretty clear that everything that happened between them was consensual. According to James, after ending things with him, Sam later reached out through someone else's phone number and claimed that he was actually fully gay. The interesting part about this entire situation is that James showed all of these screenshots to Taddy beforehand. She knew about Sam, she knew about their conversations, and she knew about what had actually happened between them. Yet she still presented this story in a way that suggested James was coercing people into believing they were gay. James also addressed Jeffree Star and the allegations he had made against him. Interestingly, Jeffree wasn't just going on a Twitter rampage. According to James, he was also privately messaging him, claiming that he had damaging material on him, and implying that James had touched Grayson Dolan while he was asleep. Jeffree further suggested that all James' alleged victims, including Grayson and Sam, would soon come forward on camera and expose his predatory behavior. However, no such video ever appeared on the internet. James also addressed the allegations involving Grayson Dolan, explaining that the flirting people saw in the videos was largely part of the content they were creating, and that he was still on good terms with the Dolan brothers.
He had to get his wisdom teeth taken out, and he's also working on different modeling opportunities in New York City, and I am so incredibly proud of him. But he was also having a really hard time in LA. Dealing with a public breakup and negativity online sent him into diagnosed clinical depression
Before No More Lies even dropped, several people who had made allegations against James had already started backtracking. For example, Zara Larsson publicly apologized and clarified that James had only messaged her boyfriend once, not multiple times as she had originally implied. The person who accused James of sexual assault also walked back their claims, apologized, and admitted that the entire thing had supposedly been part of a social experiment. Now, on the very same day that James' video dropped, both Taddy and Jeffrey ended up responding to it on their respective platforms. Teddy, for instance, tweeted saying, "I've left town on a digital break to heal and pray for healing on all sides. My family made me aware of what was just posted, and I'm disappointed to see it littered with so many lies and half-truths. I stand by my videos. Do not twist my words into what they are not. Hear the message." Jeffrey, meanwhile, decided that subtlety was overrated. Instead of keeping things brief, he doubled down on his allegations and jumped onto Snapchat, where he began ranting about an upcoming expose video. According to him, it would finally include all the screenshots, voice recordings, and evidence he supposedly had against James.
Presented correctly. I didn't want to have to do this, but I will have to respond to this, and I will show you guys things that I'm sure he never wanted to come to light, but here we are.
However, the very next day, he uploaded a video titled, "Never Doing This Again." Naturally, people clicked on it, expecting to finally see all the earth-shattering evidence Jeffrey had been teasing for days. But nope, the video contained absolutely none of that. Instead, Jeffrey said that despite everything he had said up until that point, it did not mean that he hated James. He claimed that he regretted ever inserting himself into the drama, and even apologized for the brutal and vicious messages he had sent to James.
Now, most of you have seen some brutal tweets that I sent out last week. A lot of you have seen the vicious text messages that I sent, and I want to let you understand something. Because I said those things, that does not equal me hating James Charles. He has been in my life for a few years now. Are we the best of friends? No. But we had a real connection. I loved and cared about him, and I definitely think I mishandled our friendship.
After this, Taddy also took to Twitter and asked fans to move on from the situation, which is a little ironic, considering she was the one who launched a 43-minute nuclear strike on James' career in the first place. She also stated that even though there were still many things she wanted to clear up, she would not be posting any additional receipts, because she wanted the matter to be handled privately from that point forward. James publicly accepted both Taddy and Jeffrey's apologies, and just like that, the same James Charles that people had been canceling only a few weeks earlier was suddenly being embraced again. It was honestly bizarre to watch in real time. James uploaded one video, and within a matter of days, the entire narrative had flipped. The subscribers he had lost started returning. Public opinion shifted dramatically in his favor, and the internet seemed to forgive him almost overnight. That's how wild cancellation culture was back then. One week you were public enemy number one. The next week, people were acting like none of it had happened. By this point, a large portion of the internet had turned against Taddy for starting the entire mess, which eventually led her to delete her Bye Sister video, despite it having accumulated over 30 million views. Later on, Sam also posted an apology video, admitting that not everything he had said in his earlier video was true. He acknowledged that he had led James on because friends and family were encouraging him to use the situation for clout. They viewed it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be associated with someone as famous as James Charles. So, according to Sam, he continued giving James mixed signals under pressure, despite knowing that he was fully straight. After this entire mess, you would think James would spend the next year doing everything in his power to stay out of drama. Well, that's not what happened. After the massive explosion of Dramageddon, everything slowly went back to normal. And by normal, we mean James Charles normal, which basically means petty feuds, mini scandals, and of course, unnecessary Twitter rants that somehow always managed to land him in trouble. One of the first things James got criticized for during this period was his YouTube reality competition series, Instant Influencer. James hosted the show, and the basic premise was that contestants would compete while learning from James how to become successful influencers. Initially, people seemed to enjoy it. The show was pulling good numbers, the contestants were entertaining, and everything appeared to be going smoothly. Then episode 3 happened. In this particular episode, which quickly went viral, James challenged the contestants to create the most convincing apology video possible. According to him, learning how to apologize was an important skill for influencers because public mistakes are inevitable. Now, on paper, that might sound reasonable, but when the person teaching the lesson is James Charles, a man who had already uploaded enough apology videos to start his own playlist, people couldn't help but find the challenge a little ironic. A lot of viewers felt that the episode reflected poorly on him. Given his history, it made him seem like he viewed apologies as carefully calculated public performances rather than genuine attempts to take accountability. And honestly, the timing couldn't have been worse, because 2020 had barely started, and James already found himself apologizing on multiple occasions. First, in July, he decided it would be a fantastic idea to attend a massive party during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. He was filmed at the event, and as soon as people started calling him out, he went online and apologized. Then, in August, he randomly decided to start shading Alicia Keys on Twitter for absolutely no reason whatsoever. That year, Alicia had announced that she was launching her own beauty brand, and James, as usual, had an opinion. He tweeted that people who don't wear makeup should not be starting a makeup brand. The backlash after this tweet was immediate. Many people pointed out that Alicia's brand was focused heavily on skincare and self-care rather than traditional makeup products. Others simply thought James was being unnecessarily rude. Either way, he ended up apologizing yet again. Around September, James also found himself in a very public feud with H3H3's Ethan Klein. The entire argument revolved around allegations that James had copied one of Ethan's wife Hilla's hoodie designs. Interestingly, James' sister apparel hoodie and the color-blacked hoodie from Teddy Fresh looked remarkably similar. Ethan took to Twitter to point out the similarities and expressed concern that because James had such a massive audience, people might mistakenly believe Teddy Fresh had copied him instead. Ethan also tweeted that while the matching pattern and style could theoretically be a cosmic coincidence, he found that explanation pretty hard to believe considering how similar the designs looked. James responded by saying that he wanted to handle the matter privately, and if that Ethan wanted to discuss it further, his DMs were open. However, Ethan had a very different version of events. He later tweeted that he had actually tried handling the situation privately first, but found James' responses dismissive and combative. According to Ethan, even while acknowledging that the similarities might not be coincidental, James still intended to continue selling the hoodies anyway, which of course resulted in Ethan taking the issue public. People had very divided opinions on the situation. Some argued that color-blacked clothing designs had existed for decades and that similarities between brands were bound to happen. Others thought the resemblance was a little too convenient, especially considering how nearly identical the two hoodies appeared to be. We'd also like to point out that despite getting into all these petty feuds and controversies, James was actually doing extremely well this year. He went to Coachella again, collaborated with big names, and even ended up appearing on Logan Paul's podcast. Many people thought the podcast was surprisingly wholesome and showed how much more mature James had become since the whole Dramageddon fiasco. However, people also picked up on a few questionable things he said during the conversation. For instance, at one point, James mentioned that he preferred dating younger boys, specifically those around 18 to 19 years old, while he himself was 21.
Okay, so the thing is for me, I'm 21, but like I said, I have the mentality of a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I'm much more mentally and emotionally mature than a lot of people my age. I'm not physically attracted to older guys, which sucks. Like, I would date like the absolute youngest, like 18, 19 that looks a little bit older, or like 24 that like has a young personality.
Okay.
So like I'm in like a tough situation where like it's really hard for me to find people.
Now, most of you are probably thinking we're reaching here. A 21-year-old dating a 19-year-old isn't exactly shocking on its own. There's nothing inherently problematic about that, and honestly, you'd be right. But in light of certain allegations that would later surface about James, trust us, that particular comment would come back to haunt us all in ways nobody could have predicted at the time. For now, though, let's stick to the timeline. Around June 2020, another very unexpected thing happened. Teddy, after being on a long hiatus and essentially vowing never to speak about the situation again, suddenly returned with another 40-minute video titled Breaking My Silence. For a bit of context, the people who had accused James of various things back in 2019, specifically Jeffree Star and YouTuber Shane Dawson, were getting absolutely obliterated by controversies on their own throughout 2020. Both Jeffree and Shane found themselves facing massive backlash over allegations of racist behavior. Alongside that, old clips resurfaced of Shane repeatedly making inappropriate jokes involving minors and saying some genuinely unhinged things about animals that people had somehow forgotten existed. Jeffree, on the other hand, was facing accusations of assault, bullying, and physical abuse from multiple former friends and people within the beauty community. Needless to say, things were not going great for either of them. While Jeffree managed to somehow survive the backlash and remains relevant to this day despite his seemingly endless collection of scandals, Shane's reputation never really recovered. he was effectively canceled for good. It's also important to remember that both of these people were extremely close to Taddy. They were also part of the same beauty influencer circle and had been heavily involved in discussing James throughout Dramageddon. So fast forward to June 2020. Taddy uploads her video and publicly apologizes to James. According to her, she and James had already reconciled behind the scenes. She also claimed that Jeffrey and Shane were the ones who poured gasoline on the fire and actively encouraged the conflict between her and James. In one of the most memorable lines from the video, she compared being friends with Jeffree Star to being friends with a lion.
But my guard was down from being heartbroken, and I allowed myself to be worked by Shane, Jeffrey, and others. After my video went up, I was never served a lawsuit or any cease and desist letters. I only privated my video at the request of YouTube because YouTube said it was a bad look for their platform. James, I am so sorry that I allowed myself to be poisoned and weaponized against you. I'm sorry that I bought into any of their lies. Believing those lies and allowing myself to be gaslit into making that video is one of the biggest regrets of my life. I should have tried harder to reach you over those concerns in person, and I'm sorry for giving up on you. As time went on, I learned that being friends with Jeffree Star was like being friends with a lion. Yes, he may have been dangerous, but he was always really kind to me.
Perhaps the most interesting part of this entire situation was what happened immediately afterward. As soon as Taddy's video dropped, Shane Dawson was spotted having what can only be described as a complete meltdown during his Instagram Live.
So sure. Oh, of course. Is that another ad? Another ad. I'm losing my mind. I'm losing my mind. This is so f***ed. This is... Oh my God. Okay. I'm live because I can't even process. I need a drink of water. I fucking can't process this. This is insane.
And just like that, Taddy's video effectively marked the official end of the bi-sister saga. James had finally received the apology that many people felt he was owed. But apart from this, another positive thing happened for him a few months later. Around September 2020, Emma Chamberlain, one of the former members of the Sister Squad, had returned to James' life. The two were once again filming videos together, hanging out, and appearing publicly as friends. According to Emma, they had simply fallen out of touch and eventually reconnected after nearly 2 years.
Tell me when it's your video.
Oh wait, you're right. Oh my God, this is my video. I don't know how to do it. Hi, sister. Oh no! Guys, this is so weird. Number one, I actually have a good setup. It's not mine though, it's James's. But also, like, I'm with James. We're friends again.
That was a bad high five.
Okay, do you want to try again?
Representative of the past.
Yeah. Do you know what? We've had some distance on our friendship, but we're back, and it feels so good. Did you miss me?
I did.
I did too. I missed you too.
While fans were happy to see Emma return, there were naturally questions about whether the Dolan twins would eventually do the same. When paparazzi later asked Emma if there was any chance of seeing the entire Sister Squad reunite, she didn't completely shut the idea down. But she also made it very clear that there were absolutely no promises.
Pieces, we need the Dolan twins back, and if everybody can get on the same page.
No promises on that one.
No promise. Well, that's okay. Everybody, goes through different phases.
Now, at this point in the timeline, we're entering 2021. Up until this point, especially after Dramageddon, James had become somewhat untouchable. The fact that he got canceled once, only for the public to eventually accept his version of events and help him stay afloat in the industry, was honestly kind of insane. It almost felt like nobody could successfully go after James Charles anymore. But then 2021 happened, and very suddenly, public perception of James took another dramatic 180-degree turn. The first sign of trouble came in February 2021, when Def Noodles posted a video showing James kissing Tony Lopez. Now this was a bad look, because Tony Lopez had been accused just a month earlier of battery. After the clip started going viral, James fired back at Def Noodles in a rather angry tweet, pointing out that the video's over a year old, to which Def Noodles responded that James apparently had plenty of time to call him out, but not enough time to publicly condemn the Lopez brothers, people he was still associating with and allegedly benefiting from professionally. While the internet was busy enjoying this back and forth, something far more serious was unfolding behind the scenes. The first major sexual misconduct allegation against James surfaced shortly afterward. A 16-year-old boy posted a TikTok video alleging that James had tried to pressure him into sending photos despite knowing that he was underage. According to the boy, James had also sent him unsolicited, explicit images of himself, which made him uncomfortable.
I was excited because he's my biggest influence. This is the notification that I got when he Snapchatted me first. I went into the bathroom, and I guess he saw the bathroom light, so he started making the conversation very sexual and it made me really uncomfortable. He proceeded to send me explicit pictures of his body. I was getting really uncomfortable, so I told him my age. I told him I'm 16. Meanwhile, he's 21. And then he proceeds to say, oh, but I didn't even get to see the... Yeah.
This video spread rapidly across social media. As the backlash grew, James addressed the allegations in a Twitter statement posted on February 26, 2021. He denied that he had with the teenager and claimed that the boy was actually the one who had sent photos first. According to James, he had asked for the boy's age and was told that he was 18. Believing that to be true, he began flirting back. However, James claimed that certain details later made him suspicious, so he asked again. This time the boy admitted that he was actually 16 years old. James said that as soon as he learned the truth, he immediately removed the boy from his contacts and never spoke to him again. He also stated that moving forward, he would ask every guy he talked to for identification, which admittedly is probably a procedure that should have existed before this point. Now, that was James' version of events. The teenager, however, continued to insist publicly that he had told James his real age from the very beginning. If this had been the only allegation, the internet probably would have argued about it for a week and moved on. Because, come on, this is James Charles. At this point, people had watched him survive enough controversies to fill an entire documentary series. But, unfortunately for him, that was not the only allegation. In March 2021, another teenager, reportedly 15 years old, posted a TikTok showing messages from James, including explicit photos. According to the boy, once James discovered that some of their conversations had been posted publicly, he became angry, accused him of lying about his age, and blocked him. Interestingly, around the same time, an older video from a young man named Matthew began resurfacing online. Matthew had originally posted his story before any of these allegations became mainstream, but very few people paid attention to it at the time. Now that multiple accusations were circulating, people started revisiting his claims. In his video, Matthew alleged that he had received an unsolicited ass pic from James when he was 16 years old.
I should not be egging someone on like this, or like trying to like entice them. That wasn't my intent, I'm sure, but that's definitely how it came off, and I understand that now. But that being said, no matter what, I was a child and he was like 22. Like, and it was also James Charles. So you're 16 and you're seeing this and it's like insane. I didn't know what to do. My brain was so like, it was empty. I had no thoughts going through. I had no idea what to do. I already said that, but it's so true. Whatever, I really, like, at the end of the day, there's nothing I could have said. He should have just stopped the conversation. He was the adult. So we had like maybe 5 texts back and forth on Instagram. It was, age check, I'm a very mature 16. Oh damn, don't want to catch a case. And then after that, it was just like kind of stupid. Like, that should have been end of conversation. But then he proceeded to add me on Snapchat. So this is 10:23. So an hour after this, or after I had responded to him and had the conversation. Now, again, you could just be like, oh, he could have added you on Snap before he got your age and thought maybe you were 18, like whatever. No, this was, I'm telling you right now, this was after that. So you can believe that or not. But he then proceeded to snap me, and we snapped for a while, didn't really talk much, like whatever. Then I get this snap one day. Now, this is November 24th, 2020, James Charles. I don't know if this was the actual snap. I don't have any screenshots of my snaps, but I opened this snap and I swear to God, it was a full ass pic.
Another TikTok creator, Ethan Andrew, also came forward in February claiming that James had also sent him unsolicited images. According to Ethan, he was only 14 years old at the time. When some people accused him of lying about his age, he responded by pointing out that his age was publicly available online through sites like Famous Birthdays.
He asked me what my age was, and I told him I was 14 years old, and he told me I was very young. And I honestly, like, he was like, I guess he was trying to get me into thinking I was bisexual or gay, whatever he wants to, whatever y'all want to call it. But he was asking me to send him nudes, and he kept wanting me to go to LA. And
by this point, the situation was snowballing fast. More videos were appearing, more allegations were surfacing, more people were discussing the allegations across TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. The controversy was no longer a single accusation. As the pressure continued to build, James finally uploaded a video on April 1st, 2021, titled "Holding Myself Accountable." In the video, he admitted that he had exchanged explicit messages with some of the boys involved and acknowledged that he had made serious mistakes. However, he firmly denied the allegations. He repeatedly insisted that he did not knowingly communicate with minors and maintained that he'd been deceived about their ages. James also explained that although he believed he had evidence supporting his version of events, he didn't feel comfortable publicly sharing certain screenshots or receipts because of the sensitive nature of the situation.
In both of these cases, I added these people on Snapchat, asked how old they were right away, was told that they were 18, believed them, engaged in a flirty conversation, and then later on found out that they were actually 16. Upon finding out, I was immediately embarrassed and blocked both people. Later on, when I saw them making videos about it and those videos going viral, my immediate reaction, completely honestly, was to be really, really upset. I wanted to get on camera and film another No More Lies video where I gather all my receipts and all my screenshots and try to tell my side of the story and then just move on from the situation. And now, looking back, that was so stupid because as I did more research on these topics and self-reflected, I realized that the receipts and the screenshots and the specific details of the interaction really don't matter because I fucked up. And I needed to take accountability for my actions and most importantly, apologize to the people that were affected by them. These conversations should have never happened, point blank period.
Now, this is where many people became skeptical, because when James was fighting for his career during Dramageddon, he showed up with screenshots, timestamps, and text messages. This time, however, he came largely empty-handed, and whether that decision was justified or not, it left a lot of unanswered questions. Because if James truly had clear evidence showing that these boys lied about their ages, many people felt that presenting at least some of it could have dramatically changed how the public viewed the situation. On April 16th, Morph also posted a statement confirming that they had terminated their partnership with James in light of the recent allegations. At first glance, it looked like Morph had independently made the decision to cut ties with him. However, James later claimed that he was actually the one who contacted Morph and initiated this separation, because the company was getting absolutely bombarded with messages from people demanding that they drop him. Surprisingly, the influx of allegations against James did not stop after he posted his apology video. In fact, more people started coming forward. While some allegations came from people who were allegedly underage at the time, others came from straight men who claimed that James had approached them, sent them photos, and generally tried to push boundaries regarding their sexuality.
I'm never the type to expose anyone, but this man right here really got me heated. So as you can see, James Charles commented on one of my videos back in August. Then right after, he adds me on Snap, but notice he didn't follow my Instagram or TikTok. So at this point, I'm just shocked. I'm going insane. Like, I see this guy everywhere, and for him to add me, that's just crazy. So we texted for a couple days, but it was more of like, hey, what you doing? How you doing? And we ended up getting the yellow heart within just 3 days. Then, you know, after those 3 days of getting to know each other and everything, the big question came out. James asked me if I'm gay. I told him I'm straight, and things started to get weird from there. He then starts leaving me on open.
He messaged me, not just me, half of my friendship group. It was very obvious that I was straight. His power is so large, it made me feel so small, as if I should kind of sway towards just going along with it. But this feeling of intimidation was the only thing I can grasp. Weird sort of awkward looks made me feel like I just felt so, why is he picking small influences to prounce upon? The reason why I've actually come out and spoke about this today is because I feel like it needs to be spoken about from someone that experienced it even a little bit. The only reason I kind of went there was because of the power and the pressure.
James, in his statement regarding Morph, argued that many of the allegations that surfaced after his apology were completely false. He claimed that his legal team was actively looking into the accusations and taking action against people who were spreading misinformation. After that, James decided to disappear from social media for a while. The last video he had uploaded to YouTube, Holding Myself Accountable, was posted on April 1st. He would not return until roughly 3 months later on July 2nd with a video titled An Open Conversation. In this video, James once again addressed the allegations, and naturally he did it while doing his makeup. So just like that, it was business as usual again. Now, there was definitely a noticeable dip in his viewership around this period. This video received only around 6 million views, which for most creators would be a career-defining success. But for James Charles, it was actually equivalent to a downfall. While James was on this break, however, another controversy emerged involving one of his former employees and creative assistants, Kelly Rockline. Kelly filed a lawsuit against James alleging wrongful termination, disability discrimination, and failure to properly compensate her for overtime work. In May 2021, she gave an interview to Insider in which she made a number of claims about what it was like working for him. Some of the allegations were frankly bizarre. According to Kelly, James once asked her to shave his butt before Coachella. She also claimed that her role often extended far beyond that of a normal employee. According to Kelly, she frequently found herself acting more like James' temporary mother than his creative director, waking him up for work, reminding him to brush his teeth, helping him get out of bed, and even asking him what he wanted to eat. Kelly further alleged that James frequently used the N-word in front of her and other members of his team. James, of course, denied the accusations and maintained that Kelly's claims were untrue. He argued that his team was like a family to him and pushed back against her version of events.
Is like even attempting to become a narrative, it makes me feel like sick to my stomach because it is wildly, wildly untrue, and I am so grateful for the people around me.
So after the absolute storm that was 2021, we would say 2022 was mostly calm for James Charles. Well, at least until June. That month, James decided to upload videos of himself in a swimsuit, proudly showing off his brand new BBL and twerking on camera. While many people found it a little cringy, the internet probably would have moved on within a day or two. But James Charles has never been one to settle for a minor controversy when he can create a much bigger one. So naturally, he decided to make things about 1,000 times worse by posting a photo of himself tucking. This gorgeous image right here reportedly cost James over 80,000 Instagram followers in a single day. And some reports later claimed that the number eventually climbed up to 1 million. In response, James posted an Instagram story saying, "I lost 80,000 followers today for posting that tucking story. I'm so sorry, you are all boring. You will not be missed, LOL." An absolutely fantastic response from a creator whose audience had historically been made up of a large number of younger fans. Excellent crisis management, James. Truly inspiring stuff. Entering 2023, something almost completely opposite to cancellation happened to James Charles. Despite everything that had come to light over the previous few years, he somehow became even more visible online. Right in the middle of all this, he launched his own makeup brand, Painted. And what makes the whole thing even more absurd is how a lot of the media outlets covered it. Several publications reported the launch as if James Charles were some kind of fallen hero making a triumphant return from the ashes. Headlines praised him for becoming a beauty mogul and framed the brand as a direct response to his critics. Not only that, but around July 2023, James also gave an interview to Cosmopolitan that may genuinely be one of the strangest and most one-sided pieces written about him during this entire era. The article, titled "James Charles Would Like to Be Uncancelled, Please," contained several opinions that many readers felt were unusually sympathetic towards James, while largely glossing over why people were criticizing him in the first place. Meanwhile, Painted initially received a fairly positive reception from fans and beauty enthusiasts. But the honeymoon period didn't last very long. Less than a month after the launch, James found himself facing backlash yet again when people discovered that some of the colorants used in one of his palettes were not FDA approved for use around the eyes. A number of beauty influencers, including KJB, publicly criticized the product and questioned why those ingredients had been included. What made the situation even more awkward was the fact that James had already faced scrutiny years earlier over similar concerns involving his Morph palette. Despite the criticism regarding the use of non-FDA approved ingredients in his makeup, James chose to not directly address the FDA-related concerns and instead continued promoting the brand as usual. And just like that, another controversy was added to the ever-growing James Charles collection. But all of that still was not anything compared to what would come to light about James Charles at the beginning of 2025. And this brings us to Kayla Malik. If you don't know who she is, she's an influencer and creator with over 17 million followers on TikTok. Back in April 2025, she posted a two-part series on YouTube describing the domestic violence and she suffered at the hands of her then-boyfriend, Evan Johnston. The details she gave in these videos were highly debated and incredibly traumatic. Since Kayla and Evan's relationship had been very public, these allegations quickly went mainstream and attracted a huge amount of attention. The good thing is that in early May 2025, Kayla notified her viewers that she had won the domestic violence case against Evan, and he was sentenced to more than 18 months in prison. While Kayla's audience was feeling proud and cheering for her finally getting justice, another character unexpectedly entered the discussion, and it was none other than James Charles. And we're going to tell you exactly how he got involved, because it somehow manages to make James look even worse. So Kayla has known James since 2023. She featured in his videos, they collaborated together, and by all accounts seemed to be on good terms. After getting into a relationship with Evan, she eventually introduced him to James at a friend's birthday party. But little did she know that James was apparently into Evan and continued staying in contact with him even after Kayla and Evan broke up, and even after she allegedly told him about the abuse. Now, at first, most people had no idea any of this was happening behind the scenes. But at the end of April 2025, Evan's best friend, Zach Sellers, appeared in a Be Better interview titled Investigating James Charles, and revealed that after Kayla broke up with Evan, James was still in close contact with him. According to Zach, James even let Evan stay with him and gave him advice on how to handle things if Kayla ever decided to go public. He also claimed that James and Evan were FaceTiming almost every day, and that James even sent him a very picture of himself lying on a bed and showing off his booty.
And the next picture was James bent over on his bed with his ass up in the air and was showing his ass and didn't say anything in the first picture. Then message is like, "How do you like that, daddy?" Yeah.
I'm smiling because I'm uncomfortable.
According to Zach, both James and Evan mostly communicated through Instagram's vanish mode, because apparently nothing screams totally normal friendship quite like conversations that disappear automatically. Some of the other damning revelations Zach made during the interview were that James and Evan allegedly had sex, and that James might have paid him for it. Zach claimed to have received several photos from Evan while he was staying at James' house in Los Angeles, including pictures of him half naked in James' bed. Zach also said that he allegedly saw a video of Evan and James fully hooking up, in which James was apparently calling him daddy.
Something on his phone, and they did have sex.
So Evan had gotten drunk and then showed you on Snapchat or on his phone. There was like a quick clip.
Yes, it was a very quick clip, and it was actually on Snapchat in his memories, but it was saved as camera roll for some odd reason.
And you believe this video depicted James Charles and Evan Johnston having sex?
Oh yes, 100%. You can hear 100%. It was
What
obviously.
did you hear in the video?
So in the video, you could hear James calling Evan daddy.
After this, Zach went on to claim that James lied to Kayla when she asked whether Evan was with him, despite Evan allegedly being right beside him at the time. According to Zach, James only changed his stance on Evan and later messaged him saying that he had been manipulated once Kayla's videos went public, and Evan started receiving significant backlash online. These are the messages James sent Zach after Kayla's video was uploaded. So that was Zach's side of the story. James also decided to come online after this interview and address the situation. He admitted that he had been in contact with Evan after he broke up with Kayla, and claimed that Evan manipulated him into believing he was actually the victim. He also admitted to offering Evan housing, which basically confirmed a large part of Zach's timeline. However, he denied ever having sex with him, paying him, or bailing him out as many people were suggesting online.
Video together. She told me she couldn't. She was crashing out because they had just broken up because he was crazy. I tried to lighten the mood a little bit and make a lighthearted joke asking could I have him now, and then asked what actually happened between them. All she told me was that he did awful things to her and that I would find out more in her 30-part TikTok series. She said she was upset that she helped build his platform based off of lies and abuse, and whenever she was healed, she was going to get online and expose him. I'm going to be so honest, I did not take this conversation very seriously, and obviously now knowing what we all do, I should have. Reading it back now, it is super clear that she was using humor to cope, and that is perfectly fine and valid, but at the time, I genuinely interpreted these messages as a messy breakup. Maybe he cheated, maybe they got into a drunken argument that ended. I really fucking hate to admit it, but I did have a brief friendship with Evan Johnston that started and ended well before I ever learned about any of the violence that was going on behind the scenes. He reached out to me a couple of days later asking me for advice and told me the same exact story that Zach Sellers believed and then repeated on the Be Better podcast, which was that the relationship was toxic, they both said things and did things that they shouldn't have, and a bunch of other stories that genuinely made me believe Evan Johnston was the victim in the situation. Everything else in that hour-long episode is complete bullshit. To start rumors about somebody online is one thing. Unfortunately, I know that that comes with the job, but to publicly accuse them of prosecution is ridiculous. There is no proof, no evidence of any of the ridiculous claims that Zach is making because they did not happen, which is why I have no choice other than to take legal action. But before I do that, I want to quickly take a second and clear the air on some things that have really set me over the edge. First and foremost, Evan, Johnston, and I did not in any way, shape, or form have a physically relationship. We did not have sex while he was here.
Now, the real showdown eventually came when Kayla uploaded her own TikTok sharing her side of the story, and there were numerous interesting revelations there that we think are best heard directly from Kayla herself.
He sent me the video, and then under it, he said, "Girl, who is this?" And I was like, "Oh, this new guy that I met, I think I'm in love, ha 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 ha." Then a month and a half later, he slides up on another video of me and Evan together. We have not DM'd on TikTok since this. And it's a video of us dancing together at Yosemite, and James sides up and says, "Girl, he's so hot." And I'm just like, haha, yeah, whatever, cool. So at that point, that's like the only time that we would text was about him saying how hot Evan was, which is like, whatever, I didn't care. I didn't think anything of it, whatever. So fast forward to October, and me, Evan, Emma, and Brennan all get invited to a birthday party. We get there, and lo and behold, James is there. And Evan and James have not met at this point, obviously. The only thing that's been said is how hot James thinks Evan is, which is like, fine, whatever. So I see James, I say hi to him, and I introduce them to each other. And they're just talking for a fat minute. I don't know what really they were talking about. I wasn't really in the conversation. I was talking to Lila, I was talking to my other friends. I wasn't really in the conversation. And I don't know how accurate this is. I was not listening to the conversation, but Evan did tell me after that James was just saying how Evan was the hottest guy at the bar and he was the hottest guy there. I don't know how true that is. And at this point, our relationship was basically already over. And even Brennan was like, and Emma were like, "What the fuck are you doing? Why are you DMing him on Instagram?" So we look over at the phone, and Evan sends James a picture on Instagram. So like, you know how you snap on Snapchat, like doing that on Instagram, like sending pictures back and forth? And Evan is like, "You should go to Hawaii with us." And James sends back this saying like, "Why should I come to Hawaii?" And that, for the first time, is when I was like, what the f-? And I don't know for sure, but James texts me, and he basically is asking me and Evan to be a part of this painted commercial video. And it was supposed to be like me and Evan, and it was like a couple thing, and it was for Valentine's Day. So I respond, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm sorry, but we just broke up, ha ha ha." So I text James that we have broken up, and basically the first thing he says in response is, "Can I have him now?" Just responds, "Can I have him now?" And then was like, "Ha ha ha, just kidding, what happened?" I then proceed to tell him that, let me actually like read the text like word for word. I'm gonna green screen this part, everything else I'm inserting in, but I wanna read this like word for word. So yeah, "Do you wanna be in a painted video with your man?" I explained that we broke up, I was gonna do a 30-part series. And mind you, he is the only person that I told, because this is a day after we officially broke up, he is the only person I told about a, quote, 30-part series that I was gonna film about what I went through. He goes, "What?" I go, "Girl, he's crazy." And then there we go. "What happened? Can I have him now?" Once again, didn't really think much of it, but my senses were a little bit heightened now after the whole Hawaii Instagram DMing situation, but whatever. Then tell him, "Imagine the worst things a human can do. It would take hours to text, but you'll see the series soon." He then asks again about if I'm actually doing a series, which I'll explain why that has a lot to do with more going on. But he asks again about the series, then says, "I'm sorry." And I go, "Oh, just wait. I gave this man a platform based off his lies and I'm gonna wait to heal from it and then clock it," which I did do. And then he goes, "Shit, I'm sorry, Kayla." And I said, "You're good, thank you." So that was the last time we texted until he flew Evan out to California. But in these, I made it pretty clear that Evan had f***ed me over. I brought up the worst thing a human can do. I mean, I obviously did not go into depth with what I had went through. At this point, like James said in his video, my friends didn't even know, my family didn't even know the full story. Nobody knew the full story. And obviously, I don't expect him to sit there and ask, you know, "Oh, well, what happened?" I don't expect him to do that. I get feeling uncomfortable in that situation. But I made it crystal fucking clear that I was over in a pretty big way.
She's basically confirming many of the things Zach had already said during the Be Better interview, and what we know up to this point makes it pretty clear that James had heard directly from Kayla that Evan was abusive. Yet even after that, he apparently did not stop pursuing a friendship with him. According to Kayla, he even informed Evan that she was planning to make a series exposing him. He basically knew Kayla far better than he knew Evan. He had worked with her, collaborated with her, and still chose to believe Evan's side of the story. According to the allegations, he flew him out to Los Angeles, spent a weekend with him, and even lied to Kayla about whether he was with him. Well, let us break it to you, James. You did not do all of that because you were manipulated into believing Evan was the victim. You did it because you were into him and wanted a relationship with him. That's messed up on a whole different level. And after all of this, reaching out to Kayla and offering an apology only after a video had been made exposing your involvement is incredibly wild.
So then it is Coachella weekend, a couple weeks later, and a video is posted exposing James to have flown my ex-boyfriend out to California. The second that this video goes public, James starts to blow up my phone, asking if I'm at Coachella, saying that we need to talk. I immediately already knew what he was talking about. Are you at Coachella? Yeah, I am. Can I talk to you? I shut it down. I don't want to fucking talk to you. I don't want to fucking talk to you. He says, I felt guilty for weeks and I didn't know how to tell you and I owe the truth. I explain it to you from my mouth, not the Zach eye, and then you can feel however you want to. To me, it's quite ironic that you suddenly feel guilty about this the second that it's made public. You know what I mean? Like, you suddenly feel guilty once, like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I text him, I've known for a while.
It's really crazy that he only reached out and gave her a half-hearted apology after he was publicly called out on the internet, not a day before. And honestly, that's been James Charles' pattern for nearly a decade now. He does something questionable, gets exposed for it, receives backlash, and then comes online apologizing and promising that he has learned his lesson. And we're sad to inform you that after this latest controversy involving Kayla, he still has not stopped finding new ways to get himself into trouble. The pattern has continued. The most recent James Charles controversy involves the former Spirit Airlines employee situation, and it's already blowing up online. And honestly, after everything we've covered in this video, we really wish this time he ends up getting canceled for good. Before we get into the Spirit Airlines stuff, there's one more detail about 2026 that we absolutely need to share with you, because it might just be the most iconic part of this entire video. Back in February of this year, a billboard was spotted in LA featuring James with the text, "Say James, I hear you text him young." This billboard stayed up for a short period before it was taken down. But by then the internet had already done what it does best: screenshots, reposts, and turning it into a digital fossil that will never die. For a while, there were endless theories about who was behind it. But then it was revealed by Ethan Klein that he was the one who paid $10,000 for this crazy billboard.
Excuse me, what do you mean Ethan Klein paid for this billboard that says, "Say James"?
Yes, it's true. I've spent about $10,000 to put up a full-sized billboard on a busy street in Los Angeles to remind everybody of the predator that James Charles is. With everybody talking about the Epstein files and thinking back on Harvey Weinstein and people like him that have got away with it for so long. And all the time, people are asking, how did we let this guy get away with it? And I'm looking at James Charles rebuild his career, collaborate with mainstream people, and I'm wondering, and it's all happening again. You ask, how does people like him get away with it for so long? And yet here we are allowing it to happen again. So far, this is the only good idea I've had to try to do something. And with somebody with resources and reach, I feel like, it's the least I can do to try to remind the people of Los Angeles and the world that this is what James Charles gets up to. And it's time we start calling him out. So I hope you all enjoy it, except you, James.
Now back to the Spirit Airlines situation, which is easily one of the most talked about controversies of James Charles. It started in May, when James posted what can only be described as a full-on crash-out video about a former Spirit Airlines employee who had been laid off after the company went into bankruptcy. The woman messaged James with her GoFundMe, asking for donations, and this somehow triggered a massive response from him, leading him to call her a lazy piece of shit and a bitch.
I just got a DM on here from a girl that said, "Good morning, James. I know you'll probably never see this, but if you could just take 1 minute to read it, it would really mean a lot to me. I'm really struggling right now because Spirit Airlines just filed for bankruptcy and I have lost my job. Here's a GoFundMe link. Any donations help." I'm sure they do, sweetheart. I'm sure they do. You know what else would help you? Getting another job. Yeah, try that. Because in the time that it took you to copy and paste the same ass message to myself, who you don't follow, by the way, and probably 100 other influencers and celebrities, you could have applied for 100 other jobs, but you didn't because you're a lazy piece of shit and you're entitled. And you think that influencers and celebrities should fund your life for you. Why would I ever help you? You're not a fan. You don't even follow me. You've never supported me. This is your first time DMing. And you think that I'm gonna send you money because you lost your job? Oh my God, welcome to the real world, sweetheart. People lose their jobs every day and you're white, pretty, and able-bodied. you're in a much better position than a lot of other people out here who are trying clearly much harder to make a better life for themselves. Why would I help you? Aside from that, 17,000 people lost their jobs at Spirit Airlines. Why do you think you need the GoFundMe? I can at least 1% respect the mentality of closed mouths don't get fed, doesn't hurt to try. But honestly, it does hurt to try because now you pissed me off, okay? I'm not the one. Go find Mr. Reese. This is literally his entire shtick. I'm sure the next YouTube video is literally gonna be like, I rehired all 17,000 of the Spirit Airlines employees, and it's gonna be the real life Hunger Games. The last one of them to leave the Spirit Airlines plane gets to be the CEO of the new company and gets a house and a car and $10 million that everybody else dies. Go find that video to compete in, baby. I'm not helping you. I'm not helping you. All you did was lost your job, okay? Welcome to the real world.
It's genuinely wild watching James talk about the real world, as if he isn't a millionaire who had been financially set since he was basically a teenager. That's exactly why people were so enraged by this. Viewers flooded the comments, pointing out the reality of the job market, with people sharing their own struggles, just trying to stay afloat, while James, who has built a career off public support and attention, was lecturing someone in crisis about effort and work ethic. And it didn't stop there. He also said that if the girl had followed him, he would have considered helping her, which somehow made things even worse. So the implication's pretty clear. If you don't follow James Charles, you might not qualify for empathy. That's where we're at now. In his follow-up video, he doubled down even after deleting the original. He again implied the woman was lazy, said she should have focused on applying for jobs instead, and framed her GoFundMe as entitlement.
And a lot of people were just saying it was out of touch and insensitive, and they're right. It was definitely a harsh choice of words, maybe not my best video, and I deleted it. But of course the internet is forever, and a lot of content creators are using the 5-second clip in the very beginning where I'm like, you're a lazy piece of shit, get a new job, to upload their cute little think pieces. Influencers are all so out of touch. This is so disgusting. You don't know how hard it is in the job market these days. Oh my God, give me a break. I am out of touch, first and foremost. Okay, I am never gonna be one of those influencers that gets online and pretends to be poor so I can come across as relatable to my audience. I think it's tacky, I think it's annoying, and I also think it's quite insulting to the audience watching, as if you guys are gonna be fooled into thinking that. You've been watching me for 10 years now. It's no secret that I have been able to find success doing what I've done. It didn't start that way though. I started from literally nothing and had a dream for myself and was determined to literally do anything to make it happen. And luckily, I've been blessed to be able to do that and now call this my full-time job. The reason I made that video yesterday though was a lot of people these days do not have the make it work mentality. They have no desire to actually put in the effort to try to fix a problem and get themselves out of a situation. They immediately result in asking for help. And don't get me wrong, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking for help. In my personal opinion though, it should be a last resort. If you disagree, that's totally fine. That's your personal opinion. I'm not going to apologize for having mine. There's a lot of people responding back to the video being like, oh my gosh, he has no idea how hard the job market is. I've been applying for new jobs for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years now, and I've literally heard back nothing from any of the jobs. I'm sorry that is happening to people. I know that the job market sucks. I've heard so many horror stories. I can't even imagine what that's like. Those are the people, in my opinion, that are totally valid in asking for help. The person that I made the video about yesterday lost their job last week at Spirit Airlines, along with 17,000 other people. And granted, I don't know this person. Maybe making a GoFundMe link was really their last resort. I just personally do not believe that to be the case because I know for a fact that they sent the same exact DM to hundreds of different influencers and celebrities.
After this video came out and the public perception about him still did not shift, he deleted this video too and uploaded a third one apologizing again.
A video on this account talking about how a woman had lost her job at Spirit Airlines and she sent me a message with a GoFundMe link asking me to donate. And the video was basically me yelling at the camera, being super upset and frustrated because this person had never followed me, never supported me before, and it was clear that she had basically copied and pasted this DM to every influencer and celebrity she possibly could, asking for a handout. And I called her lazy, I said she was stupid, and I said she should have spent the time that she spent copying and pasting the message applying for jobs instead. This video was fucking stupid. It was rude, it was obnoxious, it was privileged, and most importantly, it was completely unnecessary. When I saw that DM, I absolutely had the choice to ignore it and say absolutely nothing at all and move on with my day, but instead, I couldn't even tell you why her message just triggered me, and I decided instead to make a video about it. And I bashed her, and it was obnoxious, and I shamed her for asking for help in a situation where she was clearly really struggling, and this could have been her absolute last resort. I have no idea what was going on in her life, and I should have never assumed that she was just copying and pasting this DM as an easy way out. I don't know. I just don't know.
By the time this video came out though, the damage was already done. Multiple public figures had already jumped in, calling him out and criticizing the way he framed struggling people. The Spirit Airlines employee also came forward on TikTok to share her side. According to her, she never sent a long, manipulative message like James portrayed. It was a short, simple 2-line request along with her GoFundMe link. That's it. And for that, James called her a lazy piece of shit. A woman asking for $1,600 after losing her job. Not a fortune, not $1 million, just basic survival help. He later apologized to her in DMs, but she chose not to accept it, which is honestly a fair choice.
Did you respond to his apology? I sure the hell did not.
Yes, queen.
I don't think I could have put any words together and kept it respectful. So I did not respond. I just opened it, I read it.
Well, this time it looks like it wasn't just this one person who decided not to forgive James, but the entire internet also doesn't seem to be letting this go. People have brought up an old video of James from 2025 where he is literally breaking down and crying after hearing that TikTok might be gone.
I'm just really scared that I'm not gonna be able to find you guys.
wherever we do end up going. This sucks. This fucking sucks. And I really hope that something turns around and this video is going to be so embarrassing in 24 hours if this app is still here, but...
So he understands what it feels like to lose a source of income, and yet still feels comfortable calling someone a and lazy after hearing they've lost theirs. At this point, the conclusion's simple. James Charles is being canceled again. People have been mass unfollowing him across all social media platforms. A May 13th article revealed that up until that point, James had already lost over 140,000 Instagram followers. At this point, it almost feels like a loop, because every year he manages to stir up new drama and still somehow stays relevant, heaven knows how. Either it's remarkably good luck, or his PR team is doing something borderline supernatural. We can only hope this cancellation actually sticks this time, because the internet has seen enough of James Charles. After everything that has surfaced over the past decade, he really should not be online. He just shouldn't be. And with that, we conclude this chaotic, drama-filled video, and hopefully we won't have to come back to James Charles again. Please subscribe to our channel, comment your thoughts below, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives like this. You would think a YouTube film critic with over 1 million subscribers would know better than to openly defend degenerate behavior. Sadly, you'd be wrong. This guy's been in hot water over the past year or so, and for good reasons. Many have pointed out that a surprising amount of his commentary went far beyond the movies themselves, repeatedly defending what you would describe as zoophilia.
You can't say like, oh, sucking a dog's dick is wrong, but like eating an animal isn't. You can't say like, oh...
He even had multiple public meltdowns when other YouTubers called him out, only for his deranged hour-long response to become content gold for other creators. This is the disturbing story of Adam Johnston, better known online as Your Movie Sucks, or YMS, a film critic and an alleged closet zoophile who spent more than a decade defending some of the internet's most unhinged takes. A brief disclaimer before we open the case files. Some of the details documented in this investigation are deeply repulsive. The facts involve explicit discussions of animal abuse. This content is strictly not suitable for all audiences. Adam launched his YouTube channel in 2010, right in the middle of YouTube's golden age. This was a simpler time before scripted influencer drama and nonsensical brain rot content dominated the platform, an era where Nyan Cat, Nagia, and Gangnam Style captured the internet's attention and defined meme culture. Your average YouTube content was less polished, but more authentic. And this was true for Adam's videos as well. He worked with rough edits and bad audio quality, yet viewers liked his straightforward movie recaps. He spoke in a casual, blunt tone and delivered his thoughts with honesty and humor.
Hoisted up by some soldiers with some really, really bad cliche redneck attempt at a dramatic soundtrack. I have nothing against patriotism, but I felt like this movie was kind of beating me over the head with it.
This approachable style helped his channel grow rapidly. For the next 3 years, Adam stayed consistent. He focused on entertaining movie recaps and occasional gameplay streams that let him connect directly with his expanding audience. That comfortable rhythm changed in July 2015. During a live stream of the horror game Silent Hill 2, a darker side of Adam emerged. He openly identified himself as a supporter of consensual zoophilia. Speaking to his viewers, Adam first clarified that he did not encourage the behavior, had never engaged in it, and had no plans to do so.
I'm not a support of animal rape. I'm a supporter of consensual zoophilia. I don't encourage it. I'm not going to convince someone to try it.
Only to then argue that some people live with powerful lifelong urges and shouldn't be punished for acting on them. He also claimed that such interactions would not harm the animals any more than non-sexual contact would.
I recognize that people exist that will live their whole lives with an urge to do something like that, and meanwhile, while every other person on the planet gets to fulfill their eternal psychological, emotionally / physically driven urges, these other people on the planet that are attracted to the wrong thing somehow aren't able to do that, despite not harming animals in any way that they wouldn't be harmed through any other non-sexual activity.
And as some viewers questioned him about the ethics of what he was advocating, Adam doubled down with a deeply flawed argument about consent.
To suggest that there's no such thing as consensual human/animal is to be the most naive person on the planet.
Basically, he claimed that consent could be inferred from just an animal's behavioral cues. He suggested that if the interaction felt pleasurable to the animal, it was probably acceptable. To illustrate his point, he gave the example of a dog humping a person's leg, providing all the evidence required that consent was given. Rightfully, some commentators quickly pointed out the fundamental error in his reasoning. What Adam presented was a clear projection of human desires onto animals. In reality, dogs hump legs or objects for reasons unrelated to consent, such as a display of dominance, a response to overstimulation, or form of displacement behavior when anxious or excited. These actions do not equate to informed agreement. The exchange revealed a troubling side of Adam, of him using his growing internet influence to normalize a harmful and widely condemned viewpoint of someone trying to rationalize degeneracy under the guise of open-minded discussion. At the end of his long rant while live streaming, Adam stood firmly by his statements. He declared that he would not be crucified for them and predicted that in 20 years, people would look back and recognize he had been on the right side of history.
But I stand by these statements. If I'm crucified for these statements, then 20 years from now, people will look back at this and be like, wow, I can't believe all these people were that stupid to crucify him for those statements.
Now, at the time, this didn't create a sustained backlash like the one that emerged a decade later. Much of the internet simply moved on. The platform hosted plenty of eccentric personalities sharing terrible ideas, and many assumed Adam was stirring controversy deliberately to boost views and engagement. A common tactic among influencers seeking attention from outrage.
The number one thing was when you said that you just should stop bathing.
Do you want to know what's funny about that?
Sure.
It worked.
But that assumption would later be proven incorrect. He wasn't fishing for more views by courting controversy. He was serious about his views on zoophilia. 8 months after the Silent Hill 2 stream, Adam once again brought up the topic during a Mass Effect 2 broadcast. This time he spoke for more than 40 minutes, showing that his original 18-minute monologue had not been a one-off moment. He repeated and expanded the same core arguments in defense of zoophilia.
I don't know, usually, I don't know. But do all these like non-consensual things and then like you support that, but somebody sucking an animal's or like just touching a horse, that's wrong. It's wrong if you touch it and enjoy it.
Adam claimed that only vegans could genuinely oppose zoophilia on moral grounds.
Vegans are pretty much the only people that are actually at liberty to say that having animals is wrong.
He drew false equivalencies, noting that animals never chose to be farm animals, never consented to living in cages or human environments, and therefore, in comparison, zoophilia shouldn't be singled out or objected to when these other practices are so widespread. He went on to call his critics stupid, hypocritical, and unaware of their own biases.
If you touch it for the sake of the farming meat industry, that's stupid. It's very hypocritical. People are f***ing stupid. People are so unaware.
He then turned to the idea of animal consent itself. He argued that animals should be able to consent to interactions with humans, just as deaf or mute people can find ways to communicate consent.
Cues to each other in order to have consensual intercourse. You can have a deaf and mute person and still, like, just because you can't verbally communicate, you can still give consent.
To support his point, he suggested that if animals were truly incapable of any consent, then even routine petting would have to be viewed as non-consensual and abusive. This, he said, contradicted how most pet owners interpret their animal's enjoyment.
You're saying that by petting a dog, if a dog comes up to you and really, like, wants to be pet, if a cat, like, goes around your leg and very clearly wants attention, if you're saying animals can't give consent, then you're also saying that when you pet an animal that is clearly enjoying it, that they very well could be screaming in pain internally and just are so stupid that they don't try to run away or don't try to give any signals that they don't want something.
The stream drew criticism from some disappointed regulars, and some called him out for his regular use of straw man arguments. Yet the backlash remained limited. The next day, Adam quickly tried to contain the damage. He dismissed the lengthy discussion as mere drunken ramblings and shared a link to a Reddit comment that he said captured his true position. If I had known my drunken ramblings on a casual Sunday stream would get this much attention, I would have formulated my arguments more professionally. It's clear that most of the people acting upset at this aren't really concerned about trying to understand my perspective. This image is pretty much everything that needs to be said about this. Most viewers accepted the explanation without reading the comment closely. Those who did check found that the post simply restated the same arguments he had just made on stream. Adam would continue to refine and repeat his position in later discussions. He argued that laws specifically targeting bestiality were discriminatory. In his view, they punished thought crimes rooted in societal disgust rather than actual harm. He pointed out that existing animal cruelty laws already addressed physical harm. If a act caused no injury, he claimed, then no victim existed.
That you want them to be in jail for a thought crime, right? You want them to be in jail because of what was happening in their brain, not because of the welfare of the animal.
Under this flawed logic, banning such acts relied purely on moral revulsion instead of animal protection. He stretched the argument further by comparing the prohibition of bestiality to historical laws against homosexuality. Just as society had eventually accepted the LGBT community, Adam insisted history would one day vindicate his stance on zoophilia as well.
There's going to be people coming out saying, oh, it has nothing to do with you being a furry, you're crazy. It has nothing to do with any of the queer shit. That's half the fucking video.
As pointed out by some commentators, this reasoning contains several clear weaknesses. Adam asserted there was no evidence that animals experience trauma from such encounters, unlike victims of pedophilia. In reality, animals subjected to sexual abuse often display noticeable behavioral changes. These can include sudden aggression, avoidance of humans, heightened fear, and other signs of distress. Additionally, incompatible anatomy between humans and animals can lead to physical injuries, even if minor. Beyond the instinctive disgust most people feel toward the topic, Adam's own framework reveals deeper flaws. Consent, as commonly understood, requires more than basic behavioral cues. It depends on a meaningful balance of power and mental capacity to understand what's happening. The vast gap in intelligence, awareness, and autonomy between humans and animals makes genuine informed consent fundamentally impossible in these situations. By overlooking this imbalance, Adam's arguments failed to address the ethical core of the issue. These repeated defenses gradually eroded the patience of even some longtime viewers. What had started as occasional rants evolved into a consistent, unapologetic viewpoint that Adam returned to again and again. In fact, Adam's arguments grew increasingly unhinged as time passed. He began comparing sexual acts with animals to common agricultural practices, such as artificial insemination and slaughter for food.
And that when an animal gets pregnant for the purpose of, like, breeding, that they did not consent to that, and you're literally forcing an entire pregnancy on an animal? And it's like, do you...
He claimed these everyday farming methods caused far more harm than the acts he defended, drawing yet another set of false equivalencies that many commentators found both illogical and morally gross. Then in February 2016, Adam dropped his most messed up take yet on ethics. While streaming the puzzle game The Witness, a viewer asked a straightforward question: should animated child pornography be legal? Adam answered without hesitation that it should. He argued that no real person is harmed in the creation of drawings, so no victim exists. Therefore, no one should face jail time for it, no matter how disturbing others find the content.
Should animated child be legal? Yes, it should be. You shouldn't be able to go to jail for drawing something even if it's, like, disgusting and people don't agree with it.
Yeah, it's like...
Like, you can just not look at it if you don't like it.
Now, this kind of response lays bare the core of his worldview. If no direct physical victim could be identified in the moment, then the act or its depiction should be permissible.
Actual baby's been harmed by drawing one. It's like, what? Are you, like, mental? I know that, like, people get uncomfortable, but, like,
yeah, exactly. You
there's
shouldn't
no logic.
jail people for being uncomfortable.
But that ignores the indirect effects of such instances, influencing people's minds towards normalizing criminal behavior. Anyway, with little immediate backlash, Adam grew bolder. By 2018, he defended such positions more openly. A major controversy erupted when he publicly supported a furry artist who had created artwork featuring underage anthropomorphic characters. Many in the furry community expressed deep disappointment and disgust that someone they once respected had produced such material. Adam, however, took to Twitter to defend the artist, framing the criticism as unjustified censorship or moral panic. By this point in our timeline, there's no shortage of terrible positions he defended in his Twitter crusade, but one noticeable instance was when he replied to another YouTuber with a meme about consent. The post caught the attention of several users who had followed his earlier statements. They began relitigating his opinions on animal consent and zoophilia. Though the incident remained relatively small on its own, Adam was apparently enraged enough to respond in force. He uploaded a 1-hour video to his secondary channel titled YMS Real Opinion on Bestiality. In the description, he linked back to his earlier Reddit comment and urged his viewers to direct anyone accusing him of being a zoophile to that post or the new video. Now, in the lengthy rant, Adam doubled down on every element of his existing framework. His core arguments remained unchanged.
Said that people shouldn't go to jail for having animals, and then they leave out the part where I said, well, only if it's if there's literally no measurable harm or distress placed on the animal, which would make it.
The only noticeable shift was him being more defensive about his views. He repeatedly claimed critics were strawmanning his position simply because he was a furry and people wanted to smear furries by linking them to bestiality. He insisted that much of the backlash stemmed not from the content of his advocacy, but from personal dislike of his personality, his movie opinions, and his outspoken nature.
Pissed a group of people off enough that they're back to claiming that I have animals again. Which only ever comes up if people are mad at me about something completely unrelated.
Adam argued that people used his views on zoophilia as an excuse to attack him. He once again deflected genuine moral criticism by pointing to society's acceptance of the meat industry and horse racing, suggesting that critics lacked consistency in their outrage.
Because I didn't think I had to. I thought that just by saying, like, oh yeah, the meat industry, which everybody knows is fucking torture and we don't need it, right? Aside from like a couple cases maybe.
Toward the later part of the video, he again tried to connect his position to civil rights. He once again compared the current taboo around bestiality to past opposition to gay marriage in the 1950s, implying that shifting social acceptance would eventually prove him right.
It used to be completely moral to hang gay people, and now it's not. That's an evolution of our morals, right? So I think that even though I can say...
To any objective observer, the video comes across as evasive and increasingly detached from reality. Rather than addressing the serious ethical concerns about consent, power imbalances, and animal welfare, Adam spent most of the hour reframing criticism as unfair targeting or cultural misrepresentation. His persistent refusal to reconsider his stance only reinforced the growing perception that he was deeply committed to defending something most people found morally indefensible. This pattern of lengthy justifications and victim playing did little to repair his reputation. Instead, it only highlighted the depth of his fixation with bestiality, and as you'll learn later, he definitely had a disturbing fixation. Needless to say, Adam's lengthy defense did not go over well. The comments section under the 1-hour video was filled with negative reactions. Many longtime subscribers expressed disappointment, while others openly criticized his refusal to reconsider such disturbing views. The upload did little to quiet concerns, and in some cases, only amplified them. After a 2020 stream, Adam largely stopped discussing his zoophilia framework in public. For the next several years, he avoided the topic completely. Yet this wasn't really the redemption arc you expected. He offered no meaningful apology, no retraction, no sign of personal growth or changing thinking. Instead, he simply avoided the subject altogether. It seemed he hoped that silence and the passage of time would allow the controversy to fade from people's minds. The internet, however, does not forget. Adam's earlier advocacy continued to resurface whenever he faced public criticism for other reasons. It became a recurring footnote that critics brought up to highlight a broader pattern of poor judgment. A notable example occurred in 2024. An old 2016 short review Adam had made of the film Moonlight resurfaced amid accusations of racially coded language.
Is that it's not in any way some kind of pandering ghetto gangster flick that can't go 2 seconds without playing some R&B song. This is a genuine and personal film that is more about the experience of the main character than anything else.
As the discussion on forums and YouTube comments intensified, people inevitably revisited his past statements on bestiality and animal consent. Many pointed to these positions as further evidence of a consistent lack of sound moral reasoning over the years. What Adam likely intended as a quiet retreat from the topic instead became a lingering shadow. Without any genuine accountability, his earlier words remained easily accessible and ready to reemerge. The absence of reflection only strengthened the impression that he had not moved on, but had simply stopped talking about it in public. All this would finally culminate in Rob's Media featuring the topic in one of its popular Idiot Influencers episodes, uploading an entire video in September 2025 dedicated to Adam and his controversial defense of zoophilia. This episode marks a significant moment in our saga, because after nearly a decade of Adam's repeated public statements, a prominent YouTuber finally voiced what many considered the straightforward, common-sense reaction to his arguments. The video compiled clips of Adam's earlier streams and statements on the subject. Rob presented them not as thoughtful, philosophical positions, but as part of a clear pattern of degenerate and twisted behavior. One particularly disturbing element Rob highlighted was Adam's bizarre obsession with Scar, the main villain from Disney's The Lion King.
What really ties us all together is Adam's bizarre obsession with Scar, the main villain of Disney's The Lion King.
Despite Adam's repeated claims that he was merely defending a philosophical perspective and was not really a zoophile, the evidence Rob dug up suggested otherwise. Rob pointed to commissions Adam had paid for, in which his own persona was depicted in, well, intimate, affectionate situations with an anthropomorphic version of Scar.
Caressing the cock of an anthropomorphic Scar. Even weirder are a full set of drawings he commissioned showing a non-bipedal Scar.
Additional commissioned artwork went even further. For the sake of decency and platform guidelines, the details remain unlisted here, but they can be widely described as highly disturbing and gross. The episode struck a chord with many viewers who felt relieved that finally another big YouTuber called Adam out for his degeneracy. The release of this video turned simmering low-level discussions about Adam's past views into a full-blown public controversy. As the episode gained traction and went viral, renewed scrutiny poured in from across YouTube and Twitter. Adam wasn't at all happy about this and responded with a massive 5-part comment that stretched several thousand words. This was no calm clarification. Instead, he launched into a furious, unhinged attack on Rob's ethics and character. He accused Rob of deliberately timing the video to coincide with his attendance at a film festival, calling it a scummy and opportunistic move. Some might note that this claim was shaky at best. Unless Rob possessed advanced knowledge of Adam's schedule, the timing appeared to be pure coincidence. Adam went further, claiming Rob knowingly exploited his chronic wrist pain and intentionally tried to force him to injure himself while typing a response. He painted the entire video as a malicious, sensationalized hit piece full of deliberate lies. In the lengthy rebuttal, Adam also addressed the video point by point. He accused Rob of misrepresenting his review of the Prince of Egypt and once again repeated his familiar arguments about animal consent. But the most explosive part of his comment came near the end. In all caps, Adam launched a very serious accusation. He claimed Rob's Media not only had an audience full of minors, but that Rob himself was actively grooming them. He alleged that Rob sent nudes to minors, directed underage viewers to... All of these accusations were thrown out based on the fact that Rob had mentioned the name of Adam's NSFW Twitter account and described some of the posts in the video.
Yes, these exist, and can be found on his Not Safe for Work Twitter accounts. This man jerks it to gay lion. It's all even weirder when you remember how many times Adam has stated that he's only attracted to furries.
Adam conveniently ignored important context. The video opened with a clear age warning, stating the content was not suitable for all audiences. This lengthy, angry comment did little to repair his image. If anything, it ironically reinforced the very pattern of defensiveness and poor judgment that Rob's video had highlighted. But this unhinged manifesto was just the beginning. The next day, he took the battle directly to his own turf, moving the fight out of Rob's comments section and onto his main feeds. He launched a multi-part statement across Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube. Once again, he painted Rob as an all-knowing villain. He told his audience that Rob timed the hit piece maliciously. He claimed Rob dropped the video during his biggest work trip of the year to sabotage him. Then came the serious allegations. He claimed Rob used YouTube drama commentary to mask behavior. He offered zero evidence to back this up. But this time you can observe a shift in his strategy. He finally stopped defending zoophilia, at least on the surface. He addressed his past rants about the ethics of bestiality laws. He reframed those deeply disturbing statements as a mere byproduct of his youth. Critics did not buy the excuse. To them, his words sounded like a complaint about poor phrasing. He didn't admit the comments were gross and wrong. He just wished he had worded them better. Next came a bizarre call to action. He urged his followers to find his specific comment under Rob's video and upvote it. Rob had not deleted the comment. If the defense was justified, it would gain traction naturally. Weaponizing a fan base to boost an unhinged rant rarely keeps a case. The underlying motive quickly became clear when Adam claimed Rob's video explicitly violated YouTube's terms of service. In other words, he wanted his followers to mass report the video and force the platform to delete it. So a few hours after the post went live, we got to see the results as YouTube took Rob's video down. Adam was elated and took to Twitter to frame the takedown as total vindication. In his mind, the removal proved his grooming accusations were true. But his victory was short-lived. Rob responded the next day. He announced that his video was back online. He stated the takedown was the direct result of bad faith reporting. He explicitly tracked the automated removal back to the earlier call to action. Adam was visibly displeased. He returned to the video's comments section to launch another rant and promised that he would release a fitting reply. That materialized on September 17th. It was an hour-and-a-half-long video, and Adam again tried to portray himself as the victim. He claimed it was the target of a coordinated attack, but the defense backfired completely. In trying to clear his name, he ended up proving the original allegations entirely correct. He had previously blamed his past statements on poor phrasing. Yet during this stream, he defended the exact substance of his old philosophy. He essentially admitted that his counterattack was just a distraction tactic to get the heat off himself.
And yes, in that comment, I say, this is behavior, and I call him out in all caps, and I do a little schizo right? I was ass mad because I was typing this.
He also doubled down on the disturbing rhetoric. He used a bizarre example of a dog humping a person's leg. He claimed this was proof that an animal could give consent. He followed this with a strange analogy about veterinarians and animal breeders. He claimed the only difference between a medical professional and someone engaging in abuse was a matter of intent. He concluded that the law should not jail people for what he called a thought crime.
Right? There'll be a clip of like, a woman fell down a hill, and then the dog just starts humping her. And so my response is the dog not consenting to some sort of sexual act by doing a sexual act on the human, right?
If Adam thought this video would help his case, it did the opposite. The unfolding drama caught the attention of the wider commentary community. Other creators began reporting on the situation. One of the first major rebuttals came from a YouTuber named Nicandros. Nicandros dismantled Adam's defense using the creator's own historical footage. He unearthed his old rant from his Silent Hill 2 stream. Nicandros used the clip as proof that these arguments were not just innocent philosophical explorations. It was an outright endorsement he had been pushing for over a decade. Nicandros also exposed a massive hypocrisy regarding the grooming claims. He highlighted a past watch-along stream for the movie Prey. During that live broadcast, Adam could be seen actively searching for illicit adult material on camera. He casually discussed a restricted website in front of a live audience.
If he genuinely believed that masses of minors were flowing to it, shouldn't he have done that? Adam clearly doesn't believe that this is a real issue. It's a total distraction. He did a bit in one of his videos where he shows himself going to a furry website and then describes some of the posts.
Predator pornography. I should look some up right now.
Nicandros turned the weaponized accusations back around. He labeled the behavior as pure projection. He noted that the creator regularly reviewed family films and therefore undoubtedly had minors in the audience. Once again, Adam deployed a multi-thousand-word essay directly into Nicandros' comments section. He relied heavily on familiar mental gymnastics. He first claimed he was heavily intoxicated when he made the statements. Then, in a dense word salad, he inadvertently proved he was still advocating for the behavior. Now, Nicandros actually took the time to systematically deconstruct the entire essay. He called Adam out for his severe irresponsibility, stating that intoxication was absolutely no excuse when influencing the minds of a massive young audience. He pointed out that Adam was not merely misinterpreted, he was actively lying about his past positions. Nicandros also rightly pointed out that Adam completely missed the root cause of the public's disgust. He stated bluntly that for most people, the issue extends far beyond animal welfare. It's about what the desire says about the individual. Nicandros noted that wanting to engage in such behavior is a sign of severe psychological distress, and the public was deeply concerned that it signaled potential danger in other aspects of his life. The entire interaction was an absolute disaster for Adam, but that wasn't the end of it. On October 22nd, Rob dropped a follow-up video titled YMS Crash Out. The content specifically broke down Adam's original unhinged comment from the very beginning of the feud. The video exposed the sheer desperation behind Adam's actions. Behind the scenes, Adam had been pleading with Rob to pin his comment and to grant it a creator's heart. He was begging for visibility from the creator while simultaneously organizing a public campaign to mass report and destroy Rob's channel.
Yet despite lying about me multiple times regarding this, he's whining about how I won't pin his lengthy essay under my video. Oh, and he wants me to heart it as well. Yeah, let me heart the comment where he slanders me as a g***er.
But the desperation went even further. Evidence revealed Adam had sent a follow to Rob's girlfriend on Instagram. The clear underlying implication was that he intended to slide into her direct messages to continue the erratic campaign.
But this wasn't the reason why I blocked him. I did so because he went as far as requesting to follow my girlfriend on Instagram, seemingly in order to send her a DM too. Buddy, she doesn't want to talk to you.
After that video, you finally have a definitive consensus forming across the internet. The broader online community widely viewed him as a degenerate. His unhinged habit of responding to every single critic backfired completely. The pattern itself became highly lucrative content for other creators to cash in on. A massive wave of commentary channels quickly joined the fray to expose his behavior. His YouTube career did not end entirely, and he continues to upload videos to this day. However, the reputational damage definitely did leave some injuries. His channel growth had stagnated, and his Patreon subscriber base had seen significantly better days. Adam Johnston attempted to mask his disturbing rhetoric behind a thin veil of intellectualism, but the internet eventually saw past the persona and responded in kind. The core flaw in his ongoing philosophical argument remains blindingly obvious. Holding an animal to the human standard of informed consent is entirely nonsensical. It's the logical equivalent of putting a wild crocodile on trial for hunting its prey. Because animals cannot comprehend or navigate the boundaries of human consent, any contact between a human and an animal is inherently non-consensual. It's animal abuse, plain and simple. He only disavowed his past rants when critics like Nicandros finally cornered him. Even then, the goalposts constantly shifted. He offered excuses instead of accountability. He weaponized bad faith accusations, attempting to frame his critics as to deflect from his own behavior. When that strategy failed, he abandoned the philosopher persona entirely and claimed it was all in the past. So what do you think about how this controversy unfolded? Drop a comment below with your thoughts on the investigation. If you want to see more deep dives into the internet's most disturbing content creators, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.